Klaus says former tenant Kelly Stafford moved out owing for rent. Victoria also claims Kelly vandalized the home.
Miss Klaus, you own a rental property, and the defendant was a tenant of yours for, according to your complaint, about 5 years.
Yes, she was a former friend first and then tenant.
But she was a paying tenant for 5 years. What was the rent on the house?
$630 a month.
Nope.
No. What was the rent?
It started out at $590, and then it went up halfway through the 5 years to $620.
Well, that's not much of an increase over the course of 5 years. It is your claim that when she left, she owed you some rent, and also that when you went there after she moved out, the place was a disaster.
Yes.
Costing thousands of dollars in renovations.
Yep.
Ms. Stafford says that she left in mid-April of this past year. She, in fact, gave you rent for half the month of April in cash, and that she left the house in fine condition. She doesn't know what happened, but certainly she left the house in fine condition. When did you pay your rent, Ms. Stafford? At the beginning of each month?
Yeah.
That's not true, Your
Just
Honor.
just a second. Don't interrupt when I'm asking her questions. And you paid, according to you, in the last part of the tenancy, $620 a month.
Yes.
How much money did you give Ms. Klaus for April?
$310.
Well, you can't do that.
Okay.
You have to pay for a month's rent. If you choose to move out in the middle of the month, that's your prerogative. But you can't pay for a certain number of days unless you have a previous agreement to do that.
And we did. We talked at the end of March. I told her that I would be moving on the 15th, and she said, "You're kind of leaving me in a jam. That's not fair."
She's absolutely right.
Right. And I told her, and I said,
Well, she's
but there's
absolutely
nothing
right.
I can
You
do.
won't
I said
believe
I
it.
can do
Shh,
what
I'm speaking. Don't speak over me. You told her at the end of March you were going to be moving out April 15th, so you gave her no notice.
There was no lease.
But you gave her no notice after 5. Okay. So let us say I believe you that you gave her $300 in cash. Did she give you $300 in cash?
Yep.
Then you owe her $320.
I gave her $310
Okay, then you owe her $310
already.
because you can't dictate to her that you're going to be moving out at the middle of the month and you only owe half a month's rent. You owe the entire month's rent.
Okay, because she told me that she agreed to that. That would be fine.
I don't believe that at all. I didn't even have to ask her.
Okay.
Once she says you're leaving me in a lurch by giving me no notice at the end of March, she's not going to say, well, I'm going to be real nice to you. You only have to pay me for half a month.
Okay.
Try to play it straight with me, Miss Stafford. I'll be much more amenable to listening to what you have to say about the destruction of the house if you don't fib at the very beginning.
I'm not fibbing.
Yeah, sure you are. Because something doesn't make sense, it's not true.
Okay.
And if you call a landlord where you've been a rent-paying customer for 5 years and you say, I'm not giving you any notice, I'm not giving you 30 days notice, I'm not giving you 60 days notice, I'm moving out in 2 weeks. And the landlord says to you, gee, that's really not nice of you after all this time. I've been very good to you. I've given you minimal rent increases over the course of the 5 years. You know, you could have at least given me an extra 30 days notice. You're not giving me any notice. And then she's going to turn around and say to you, and you only have to pay me $310. Ridiculous.
Your Honor, she came to me in the beginning of March and told me that she would be selling the house. That's when I started looking for a place to live because I didn't want to be left out without a place to live.
Listen to what you're saying to me. She gave you notice the beginning of March that she will be selling the house. Not that she sold it and you have to be out in 2 weeks. So start to prepare yourself.
Absolutely, and I did. And I asked her how long it takes to sell a house. She said, I will be doing it through a paper where he would be paying my mortgage, and then at the end, I will just sign the house over to him. It wasn't going to be through a whole real estate or nothing like that.
Did she give you an answer about how long it would take?
No, she did not.
Oh, okay. All right, so now we have $310 that she owes for the month of April. Now, what date did you move out, Miss Stafford?
The 15th.
4/15. And you say you left the house in good condition?
I did.
Okay. When did you go to the house?
I went there on Tuesday, the 19th.
You moved out on the 15th. On the 19th, tell me what you saw.
Well, first, can I just step back 2 days? On April 14th at 7:30, we still had not received any rent at all from them. I sent my husband over there at 7:30 at night. She opened up the door to him. He asked her for the rent. She said his exact words were, I'm not sure if I'm paying you. I'll have to wait and talk to my husband because she's mad over whatever rumors she heard, and shut the door in his face. I went there the next day on Saturday to ask for the rent because she said she would only deal with me, not my husband. I went there, and that is when we got into the discussion of why she said she was upset about some rumors that she had heard at a diner that I was working at, and that's why she wouldn't pay me. And I said to her, I said, you can't just get mad at me over rumors, and I'm not going to get into any of that. This is between me and you. The diner is completely separate. I said, I'm not telling you you have to move right away. You know, it's going to be 3 months. By the end of this conversation, it lasted almost 2 hours.
You were in the house.
No, she came outside. She was very, very angry, and I could tell she did not want me inside. But by the end of this conversation, she promised me, she looked me face to face and promised me she would give me 30 days notice and that she would give me the full month's rent. And I never heard from her again until I knew the property was empty. When the property was empty and the cops were there is when I said to her...
What date was that?
The cops were there on the 4/18.
On the 18th?
Yep.
And Miss Stafford was there?
She wasn't there at first when they got there. I was there. I had noticed the damage, all the disgusting stuff that was done inside the house.
So you were actually inside the house on the 18th, not the 19th?
Right. I was inside the house on the 18th. That's what the police report is for.
Okay.
And I went in and I saw all the damage, and first thing I did was call the cops for a police report because the place was...
Can I see it?
...completely trashed. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Okay, so she did in fact pay the $310.
Right.
Because that's what she told the police they would do, and she also agreed to clean up the mess,
Right.
according to the police. Okay, did she clean up the mess?
No, she didn't. She had told me that she would come the next day on Wednesday. She got out of work at, I believe it was 5 or 6. She said she would come over then and help me herself clean it. I said, okay, I'll be over here cleaning anyway. Go ahead and come over. Well, she never came, never showed. I didn't go home till I think like 6:30. She called me and said that she wouldn't be able to come because she had car trouble. I said, okay, you know what, if you want to call me another day, I'll gladly go back over there with you. I don't want anybody there now while I'm not there because of what's already been done. I don't trust anyone else there. But I will go back over there with you whenever you want to clean. And I have not heard from her since to do it.
Do you have photographs of what
Yes,
the
I
place
do.
looked
I have
like?
photographs, I have estimates, I have a video.
First, let's take a look at the photographs.
Would you like the video too?
In a minute. Would you show these to the defendant, please?
It's funny.
I'm not finding any of it funny.
Go ahead.
All these attic pictures and all these basement pictures, yes, maybe some of these are stuff that was left from behind.
I'm talking about the refrigerator, the garbage.
No, we put the garbage out. A lot of this stuff came from the attic that her brother destroyed, and it was from a ton of stuff was left up in the attic that I couldn't even use.
I'm not talking about the attic. Let's
Okay.
not talk
Well,
about the
that's
attic. Let's talk
pictures
about
of
the
this.
kitchen. Let's talk about the
Okay.
stove.
The stove wasn't hers, and it was broken. She knew it was broken.
What about the garbage?
The garbage is not all mine.
Whose is it?
Which came from the upstairs in the basement that she packed
to me.
up. Are you kidding me?
You said when
Shh. Refrigerator in the freezer?
No. No.
Food in the refrigerator and the freezer was yours.
Yeah.
The dirty stove inside was
There
you.
was a
Shh, listen to me. The stove was used by you for 5 years?
No, it was broken.
So you didn't have a stove for 5 years?
No, not the oven part. The top of it worked, yes. There was a fire
have-
at the bottom of it.
When you say that somebody else's stuff was in the basement, whose stuff was in the basement?
Her brother had lived there previously before I did. There was stuff in the basement from him. All of his
That you
leftover
left
stuff.
there,
and
just a
his-
second, that you left there for 5 years?
She brought a dumpster over there and we did clean out. I helped her personally clean out a ton of it. But yes, there was still some left in there.
And so what you're telling me is this mess down here was her brother's stuff that had been there for 5 years?
Absolutely.
Okay, can I see the video, please?
The water on the basement floor is from our washing machine being moved. That I can admit to.
that's not
But-
true either. Your Honor, that is where there was a carpet and it was so badly contaminated with urine from cat smell that I had to replace it, and egg yolk that someone egged and candle waxed the inside of the entire house, up and down all the walls. That stove that was not the same stove that was in there. I've gotten her 2 stoves since then and 2 refrigerators. That one she chose to have because her father gave her it. That's a busted out window in the kitchen, busted out one in the back door, which she said her son put his hand through when he was running through the house.
No, I said my son accidentally bumped into when he
Well,
was
your
running
son
into
did
the house.
whatever he did.
He accidentally hit it, and I told you that 3 years ago, and you said you would fix it.
Why didn't you fix it?
She told me she would do.
And
Why didn't you fix it?
That's exactly why I didn't, because she told me it was her son.
I'm asking a question. So if your son did it, so why didn't you fix it?
This is graffiti that is written all over the garage. by her husband and his band, complaining about neighbors because the cops were called several times due to complaints.
Well, you
of
don't know who
noise.
wrote it.
Well, it's got their names on it.
We didn't do that, Your Honor.
You think she did it to her own property?
No, I don't believe that she did it to her own property. And she also told me that she didn't believe that I did it either. And she told me that I was the last one there, so I was the one that she was going to blame because I had no proof that it was anybody else. So I took pictures. There was broken windows as well, pictures of the house that she promised to put siding and to paint. I've lived there for 5 years and she's done nothing.
We're not talking about whether you chose to stay at a place that didn't have new siding for $600 a month. Listen to me quietly. Is what you're saying that the destruction to the house was between the time you moved your things out and the couple of days and she saw it?
Yes.
Well, how do you think somebody got in there?
I believe through the broken window.
You do?
Yes, I do.
You do. That's your responsibility. You should have fixed the broken window.
No, just not that window. The window on the side. Not the one from the door. The window on the side of the house. That I can...
Is what you're telling me, madam, that you lived there for 5 years and nobody vandalized the house, but in 2 days after you moved out, somebody chose those 2 days to come in and do all those things to the house? Is that what you're suggesting to me?
I am. And my mom was there to clean on Easter Sunday, and she cleaned the whole place with my husband. She did all the cleaning. And when I went in there on Tuesday...
She didn't do a good job.
Well, I went in there on Tuesday...
You didn't do a good job of cleaning.
I didn't do a perfect job, Your Honor, but the garbage was out, the eggs were not there, the other things that Vicki is claiming, such as, excuse me, I'll stand, such as the ceiling fan being broken and everything else, that was not there at the time. Maybe I didn't do a perfect job cleaning. It's not my responsibility to clean up after my daughter. I keep my own place clean. But the destruction itself was not there. Some of the more destructive things were not there, okay? That's all I can say.
Mm-hmm. Maybe she didn't do it. Maybe her did it. I don't know who did it.
I don't either.
But it was done during her tenancy because she was there during the month of April. During the month of April, she is responsible for the house. She was responsible for paying rent for starting April 1st in the amount of $620, and she was responsible to see to it that the house was kept in a reasonable state. Now, who is this person over here?
This is the neighbor that lives across the street from where Kelly resided. When I went in and I saw how much damage was done, I was very distraught. I came out, I was on my cell phone. I called the cops, was back and forth. She was on her way out to work at the same time. She used to live there when I lived there. And she came over and she said to me, Vicki, what's going on?
Okay, step up. Tell me your name.
Jacqueline Bergen.
Ms. Bergen, what do you know about the condition of the house on or about the 15th to the 18th of April?
Well, over the weekend of the 15th, Kelly and her husband and them did move out of the home. On Tuesday, it was probably approximately about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was backing out of my driveway.
Tuesday is what date?
April 17th, I believe it is.
Okay.
And I was backing out of my driveway, and I had seen Vicki over there in the driveway. She was walking up and down the driveway. She had her cell phone. And I had gone over and I said, hey, Vic, I see your tenants had moved out over the weekend. So Vicki had asked me, she goes, did you see the damage to the house? I says, no. She goes, will you come in with me? I said, sure. And I walked through the whole house with her. She used to have a stepdaughter that lived there. And her...
Who?
Kelly. And my daughter and her daughter used to hang out. Her daughter's name was Brianna. And a lot of that stuff in that attic belonged to Brianna. We found shoes that had Brianna's name written down the side of them. School papers. There was pictures in the attic of Kelly and Chuck. There was CDs from the band that her husband had upstairs in the attic.
And this was on the 17th?
On the 17th. And I'm the one that went through and took pictures with Vicki. And then on the back porch, which there is a picture of, she says all the garbage was removed. It might have been removed out of the house, but it was put onto the back porch and left there. There's empty Budweiser boxes, there's bags of trash. And then on Wednesday, me and another girl and Vicki were all over there cleaning, and then that's when Alta came over too and started in with the cleaning. And she said that Kelly would be back that night to help us. And Kelly has not been over there since.
Okay, thank you.
Judge Judy?
Yeah.
I did call her and tell her that I would like to give her her keys back and do the walkthrough. I'd leave her a message.
What date?
This would be on Monday, because Sunday was
Date?
Easter. 17th.
16th. But she said the 17th was Tuesday.
No, 17th was Monday.
17th was Monday. So on the 17th, you wanted to do a walkthrough, but you hadn't taken
I
care
called
of all
her.
the
No,
garbage.
I had called her. I had my mom and my husband was over there on Sunday, on Easter Sunday, taking the garbage out. The garbage was to be picked up on Monday morning. I don't know if I was not there. So I don't know if all the garbage had made it out on Monday morning. I called her and left her a message. She called me back and left a nasty message on my phone on Tuesday saying that the cops were there and everything, and I can play it if...
I don't need it.
Okay.
At least some of the stuff that was upstairs in the attic belonged to Brianna. It belonged to her brother. It didn't belong to any of her relatives. I believe her. She has absolutely
And her son, spent the night in my house every weekend. He can contest that. She knows that my house was not dirty, and I was...
Listen to me. I think that you left the house a mess.
Okay.
I think that there was a lot of messy stuff left there. And I also think that either you, your son, your husband, or whatever did some nasty writing on the wall. There's no question in my mind that that happened. Now, that isn't worth thousands of dollars. That's worth a good cleanup. And if you had, at the time of your tenancy, had a security deposit, that security deposit probably, or should have been, something like 2 months' rent.
Right.
So at the time that you started, your rent was $590. Is that right?
Yes.
$1,180 plus the $320 that you owe her.
Your Honor, if I may show you just estimates as to what the damage
Listen
exactly
to me.
is.
When you rent a house to somebody, you have a responsibility. Your responsibility is to see to it ongoing that there isn't the kind of damage that you claim exists over 5 years. Okay. And you're not going to wait until the end of the tenancy and say, I want new carpeting, I want new appliances, I want the place freshly painted. You have to do that. That's what an owner does to their property. But certainly someone who leaves the apartment should leave it broom swept, clean, and in reasonable condition. I'm not talking about new carpeting, cleaning the carpeting, doing anything like that. And you have to be a little vigilant, because if what you say is that she was a friend of yours, you should have been in that house more frequently at the end of every year to see to it what was done. And you can't tell me now, after 5 years, that you want a whole redo on your house, but you're entitled to have it left clean. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all, Steph.
20-year-old suing her former friend, 19-year-old Eric Smith, for the cost to bail him out of jail after he was arrested for unpaid speeding tickets.
Ms. Hubbard, you claim that Mr. Smith owes you money for bailing him out of jail.
Yes.
And Mr. Smith acknowledges that you bailed him out of jail, but he said that that was your choice. He never agreed to pay you back the money, right?
Yes.
How old are you?
19.
What do you do to keep yourself occupied?
I'm a full-time student and I work.
Full-time student where?
Longview Community College, Kansas City, Missouri.
And you work for whom?
Walgreens.
And what were you arrested for, Mr. Smith?
On speeding charges, tickets that I didn't pay, warrants.
Speeding, tickets, warrants. How many?
8.
How do you manage to get all these tickets if you're a full-time student and working at Walgreens?
What it was when I was in high school, I racked up a lot of tickets, like speeding tickets, and I didn't have a job in high school because I played football, and I didn't work, and I never paid them off.
And how do you know Miss Hubbard?
I met her at the club.
Now, were you dating each other or you just knew her?
It was like kind of like that in-between thing where not really friends, but not really together either.
I see. Who was this smiling person over here?
This is my friend Robin.
How long have you known Robin?
About 6 years now.
So he's a good friend of yours?
Yes.
Better friend to you than Miss Hubbard, right?
I guess you could say that, yeah.
Well, he schlepped all the way to court with you, didn't he?
Yeah.
From Missouri?
Yeah, from Missouri.
And who do you live with?
I stay with my dad right now.
So you have a father?
Yes.
And I guess he's known you for at least 19 years, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have a mother?
Yes.
She's known you for at least 19 years.
Yes.
Now, Robin here, he didn't bail you out of jail.
No, he didn't.
So he must not like you so much.
Nah.
And your father didn't bail you out of jail, right?
Right.
He didn't like you so much.
No.
Your mother didn't bail you out of jail,
No.
right? She didn't like you so much.
No.
You have grandparents?
Yes.
Yeah, how many?
I actually have one.
Grandmother?
Yeah, grandmother.
She didn't bail you out of jail either.
No, she didn't know, actually.
I guarantee you she knew.
Okay.
So how long were all these loving people who were really attached to you, how long did they let you sit in jail when you got arrested?
The whole time.
How long was that?
That was 3 weeks.
3 weeks. I mean, we're not talking about we'll let him stay overnight to teach him a lesson, right? We're letting Mr. Full-Time Student Employee at Walgreens stay in jail 3 weeks. But then, according to what I managed to put together here, they were going to move you from one jail to another because you served your time on a whole bunch of tickets in one county, but then there were other counties looking for you. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yeah.
You ever hear of a man for all seasons? This is a man for all counties. So when they were going to move you, somehow Miss Hubbard bailed you out of jail.
Yes.
Were you happy to be out of jail?
Yes, I was.
How happy were you?
I was very excited.
And how did Miss Hubbard find out that they were going to move you from one jail to another?
I told her.
You told her?
Yeah, I told her.
Did you tell your mother?
No, I didn't tell my mother.
Did you tell your father?
Yes, I told him.
Did you tell Robin?
No, I didn't tell Robin.
Didn't tell Robin either,
No,
but
I
you
didn't.
told your father?
Yes.
And what'd your father say? Bye.
Yeah.
But not Miss Hubbard.
No.
She bailed you out.
Yes.
So what do you think you ought to do?
I told her thank you. I did. I told her thank you.
You told her thank you?
Yeah, I told her thank you. I never agreed to pay her back, so.
What did you say when you called her?
I just told her the situation, that I was done serving my time at that jail and that they were transferring me to a different jail. And she didn't want to see me in jail no more than I wanted to see myself in jail. So she proceeded to bail me out.
Oh, okay. Now, Miss Hubbard, why don't you tell me how it came about that you bailed him out of jail?
Well, he caught me July 19th, which was a Thursday. I knew he was going to the next jail the next day. So he basically talked about how he was tired of being there and that he didn't want to serve the days that he would be serving at the next county. He asked me if I had some money. I told him I didn't at that moment, but I had got paid that Friday. And he basically went into, you know, my bail is $220. If you have the money, I'll pay you back. I don't want to be in jail anymore.
That sounds right. That sounds like what people say.
That's not what I said.
How many times did your father bail you out of jail?
About 4 times before that.
And each time that your father bailed you out of jail, did you pay him back?
No.
That's why he didn't pay you out anymore.
Right.
How are you going to pay back? How much was his bail?
It was $250.
Well, what happened when you asked him for your money back?
I never got a chance to really ask him for the money back because he basically ignored my phone calls. And the last time I saw him, though, he had told me to come back and that he was going to give me some of the money. And after that, when I had called him back, I basically got ignored.
You mean after you bailed him out, he cut you off?
Basically, yeah.
That's not nice, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, can I say something in my defense for
Yeah.
that? I didn't like the way that she was treating me. Like the lifestyle that she wanted to live when I got out of jail. She wanted me to like stop hanging out with my friends that I know like way longer than her. She was real controlling and she was like real possessive and I just didn't want to talk to her anymore. So I just cut her off.
I'm going to say something to you that you've probably heard on a lot of commercials. Stay in school, okay?
Okay.
You need it. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $250. That's
Thank
all.
20-year-old Robert Aiken is suing his ex-fiancée, 22-year-old Cheryl Smith, for unpaid bills and late fees. Cheryl claims Robert is obsessed with her.
Mr. Aiken, Miss Smith was your fiancée for a period of time. I assume you lived together for a period of time. And it is your claim that you put some money into her checking account in order to pay some bills.
Correct.
You broke up and she put a stop payment on the bills you had paid. Well,
Yeah, she did it online. She stopped all payments.
I don't understand how you do that. I like that little checkbook. You write it out, you deposit it. I don't understand the online stuff, but you want that money back.
Correct.
Ms. Smith said nothing could be farther from the truth. You put money into the account. You did pay bills with the money you put into the account. You started to pay some more bills with money that you hadn't put into the account, so she put a stop payment on those bills. She has a counterclaim. She says that at some point immediately preceding your breaking up, she covered the entire rent because you were short, so that you owe her for rent. And in addition, and more importantly, she says that since the breakup, you've been involved in some serious harassment. So the money part should be relatively easy. How much money did you put into her account?
Total, 2 checks of $420 and $316.84, so $736.84.
When?
The $420 was put in on August 12th, and the $316.84 was put in August 11th.
When had you covered the rent, Ms. Smith?
I wrote the check on August 1st.
And how much was the rent?
$662.70.
Was it your responsibility to pay the rent?
We both paid the rent. It was joint money.
Immediately prior to the 11th of August, when did you make your preceding deposit in her bank account?
I would give her cash when I got my check because she was writing all the checks for bills. So I would just cash and stuff of that nature. I have no proof of it. Sorry. I'm a hand person.
Now, he put in the $736. What bills did he pay with it?
Well, my counterclaim is I have bills that total $548.44 that I paid for him, in addition to the rent for $662.70.
It wasn't like a split right down the middle. We were
Well,
just
it should be. It's all sounding very good for Miss Smith, Mr. Aiken. What I want to know is, did she make payments for you in the amount of $548? To whom?
she made certain
To
bills.
whom?
There was a $200 payment to his father.
That was to your father.
That's correct.
What, do you owe him money?
A car payment. It's in his name.
Go ahead.
$63.94 for his Comcast bill.
Uh-huh.
I also have penalties in which I was charged in order to stop the 3 payments that he was unauthorized to make.
Just a second. I want to know what the payments were that you made, not the fees. The payments were that you made.
And without the penalties, there were bills totaling $196 made prior.
Made prior to when?
Prior to August 1st for him.
Forget it. You paid $263 that you can account for, not $548. You know, you look like butter with milk in her mouth. You know, you keep turning it around. She becomes a more interesting character. 736 minus 263, $473. That's what's left over. Now, we're going to say that he owes you half for the rent, because that's part of your counterclaim. So we're going to take off $330 from that. $143 you owe him. You got it?
Now, what about the payments that she stopped, though?
Good, she stopped them. Good, she should stop them. $143. Gets expensive when you play house. Now I want to hear about the harassment, because that troubled me. You say that he called you over 100 times in a short period of time?
That is correct.
Let me see. Why do you keep calling her, Mr.
There
Aiken?
were different occasions equaling up to it. I was trying to call her in the beginning to try to get some of the money without going to court. And then from time to time, she would be like, okay, well, I'll pay you something. And she'd be like, well, let's meet up here. And say we say at 1 o'clock, it'd be like 1:30, 2 o'clock. So I'd call her. She'd be like, yeah, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. So it's just different phone calls, basically trying to resolve this money issue.
Well, but I'm looking at it.
It's just continuous.
For instance, I'm looking on the 23rd of August after another. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 18 calls, one right after another.
That would just, as far as that was
Were
just...
you leaving messages on her machine?
No, I didn't leave voicemails. I left, I think, maybe one voicemail. The rest were she'd pick up the phone and then she'd hang it up, and I'd try to get back to her and talk to her, trying
She
to...
doesn't want to talk to you.
I understand that.
Well, but when do you start getting that message, Mr. Aiken, that she doesn't want to talk to you? If, according to you, she picks up the phone and hangs up, she doesn't want to talk to you.
I was just trying to get money, like I said, with these bills,
You
the credit
kept
cards,
annoying
and
her.
cell phones. When the payments got stopped,
You
they shut off
kept
the cell
annoying
phone.
her. Since August, have there been any further calls?
Not since the personal protection order was issued.
Okay, do you have a copy of that?
Absolutely.
Let me see. Was it a permanent order or a temporary order?
It holds for 1 year.
So you consented to this, sir?
Yeah.
Well, if you consented to it, of necessity, the judge had to say to you, you're entitled to a trial, right?
Yeah, we showed up and had a hearing.
Oh, you had a hearing, so the judge found you guilty of harassing her.
Yeah, I told him the story, and I told him the phone calls, and he gave it to her.
Okay, but after that, you stopped.
Yeah, I have not contacted her since.
Anything else you want to tell me about your counterclaim, Ms. Smith?
Yes. As far as for the harassment, this has seriously been going on for a long time. Numerous phone calls and numerous times showing up at my place of employment, numerous times threatening my child, numerous times threatening me. He's physically assaulted me.
After he physically assaulted you, did you remain in the relationship?
No.
When, according to you, was the first time that he physically became violent with you?
On August 7th.
So that was about the time that you were breaking up?
That is correct.
Okay, so this wasn't a history, as you indicated?
No.
Fine. And what did he do to you on the 7th?
On the 7th, he shoved me into a wall and left me captive in the closet of our apartment until I had talked to him.
I don't understand that.
Our closet is a small room. I was in there actually packing some clothes, and he stood in the doorway and refused to allow me to leave.
So he kept you captive there?
Correct.
Because he wanted to talk to you?
Correct.
He's over it. You get over it. He's finished, right?
Correct.
Going to stay away from her? Going to get you $148?
Correct.
Leave her alone.
Without question.
You made a bad choice. Put a period. Move on. Counterclaim is dismissed. That's all.
Bail bondsman Aaron McAllister says former client Elena Zadevich owes for unpaid bail money.
What were you arrested for, Miss Zadevich?
I was arrested on false charges of domestic violence that my ex filed against me.
I didn't ask you whether they were true or not true. I asked, what were you arrested for?
I was arrested on allegations of domestic violence.
Was it the first time you were arrested?
Yes.
Look at me. Was
Yes.
it the first time you were arrested? The answer is either yes or no.
No.
Better. When was the first time you were arrested?
Several years ago.
Having nothing to do with domestic violence.
Has something to do with domestic violence.
So you have 2 arrests for domestic violence?
That's correct.
Was it the same complainant in each case?
Different.
Different. Okay. You are a bail bondsman?
Yes, Your Honor.
It is your claim that you received a call from the defendant in jail. You responded. You bailed her out of jail. At her request, she promised to pay for the bond. She did not. You want your money.
Yes.
Defendant says you're a sleazy bail bondsman and she's not paying you.
Correct.
When did you receive the call?
Sometime in the middle of the night from the county jail.
What night? I'm not Karnak. What night would
I'm
you
sorry.
like to tell me it is?
July the 15th.
In the middle of the night. You were home?
Correct. In bed.
How did you get his number?
It was posted on the wall in the county jail.
You have your home number posted in the wall in county jail?
No, ma'am. It's an office number that forwards to my cell phone in the evening and weekends.
I see. I wouldn't think that you'd want your house phone
No.
to have a number. Okay. What did the defendant say to you when she called?
That she was in jail and she had to get out. She had to get to work the next morning. If she didn't get out, she would lose her job.
What kind of job do you have?
I'm an executive assistant
For whom?
for a small media startup.
How long have you had that job?
Close to a year,
10 months?
something like that.
Where did you work before?
I was managing a medical spa,
Where?
Walnut Creek, California.
Okay. Have any family here?
Just my 2 children,
How old are they?
6 and 2,
They live with you?
part-time.
Who do they live with the other part of the time?
Well, my son lives with, my daughter part-time lives with her paternal family.
Maternal or paternal?
Paternal.
Paternal. So the father's family, father's parents with her grandparents?
No, his brother and his family, they live very close by, about 10-minute drive from where I live, and she's there a lot because I work full-time.
Okay. So you had to get to work at the media startup company when you called him?
Correct.
Did you tell him that you were going to take care of paying his bail?
What happened was I told him that I didn't have any money.
No. When you
Yeah.
called him on the phone from jail, you told him I don't have any money?
Correct.
Is that right?
No.
Of course not.
Right. I wouldn't.
Of course not, because if you tell you, please bail me out of jail, but I don't have any money, and he doesn't know you from a hole in the wall, he's not getting out of his warm bed in the middle of the night. Madam.
Well, he did.
No. He did. The question was, did you tell him that you didn't have any money?
Yes, I did.
He says you didn't, and I'm saying I believe him that at that time you didn't tell him I have no money. Because if he's in business and he gets a call from a stranger, you are a stranger, right?
Correct.
That I want you to get up out of bed, drive over to the jail and bail me out. But by the way, I have no money. He'd say, call somebody else.
That's exactly what I said.
All right. I don't believe you. Go ahead.
We discussed that she had a CD, and the CD was maturing within the next 30 days, and that there would be ample
That you would have money.
Correct. In the CD to pay me out of the proceeds of the CD. And she didn't want to cash it in early because she didn't want to pay the penalty. I agreed to those terms within 30 days that she would use the CD.
Was this on the telephone?
That was on the telephone.
Okay. Because you did ask her the question about money.
Correct.
And when you said, do you have money, what did she say?
I have a CD.
Okay. So, did you tell her how much the bail would be?
Correct. 10%, $5,000.
Because she had $50,000 bail?
Correct.
That's a high bail for domestic violence.
It is.
Do you know why it was so high?
That's per the schedule in that county. That's always $50,000 for a felony charge.
It was a felony.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So we get her out. We memorialize our agreement in writing. She
Can I
signs
see it,
a
please?
bail contract and the agreement to pay.
Can I see it, please? Okay, so you signed an agreement to pay him the $5,000.
I had no choice. He made me sign it.
But
Your Honor,
madam,
you
listen
haven't
to me
heard-
very carefully, madam. You have a choice. Your choice is to stay in jail until the matter on which you were arrested for is tried. That's your choice. You
Your
chose...
Honor, we had a different agreement.
No. This is your agreement. This in here is your agreement, in the four corners of this agreement. And what I asked you was, did you sign this agreement? And the answer is either yes or no, not
Yes,
I was forced to
I did sign that agreement, but aside from that, there was an oral agreement that took place between me and Mr. McCallister.
I'll get
and
to
I
you in
have-
a minute.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Once the agreement's signed, I get her out of jail. She says, now what do? I live 30 minutes from here. I agreed to give her a ride. She's worried about getting to work, so I give her a ride. And it's about 30 minutes away. So during that time, she tells me the entire story about the arrest, and I attempt to be understanding that, you know, she was arrested, and I'm sorry, and that's a bad thing, and you're dealing with a breakup, and, you know, how she caught her boyfriend with his new girlfriend laying on the couch that she paid for or she picked out. And the entire time in the car,
Would you look at me when you're telling me this story, Mr. McAllister? Look at me. Don't look down there.
Sorry. The entire time in the car, she says, I'm not a stalker, I'm not a stalker. I go, okay, sorry, you're not a stalker. No problem. Okay, I'll get you to your vehicle. Well, the vehicle's parked 3 blocks away from the house where she was living or where she was arrested. So there's obviously something going on there. Anyway, I get her out, she signs the agreement, and she refuses to pay me.
Just a second. When did she sign the agreement?
Immediately upon release from the county jail.
Okay. And then you drove her to her car.
Correct.
And you dropped her, and she never paid you.
Right. I made
When,
repeated
for the first time, did you contact her with regard to payment?
Well, within 10 days, we sent her an invoice, just a reminder of the payment terms, and sent her 4 or 5 subsequent invoices that went answered with these rambling letters talking about...
Do you have a copy of the letters?
I do.
Can I see them, please?
Those are her letters to me and then my responses.
Based upon our discussion, these are your words, when he initially asked you for your money. Based upon our discussion, it was my understanding that we would discuss my opportunity to provide some type of service to you and your business in lieu of paying you $5,000 for a relatively risk-free, as you put it, bond. I am still awaiting the opportunity to make good on my offer to work for your company. As you were advised at the time the bond was posted, I have not, or do not have now, $5,000 fee that you are demanding. Given the above-mentioned discussions that we had at the time of the unsecured bond was posted, I now consider your correspondence demanding $5,000 to be intimidating and threatening. What are you, crazy? Please do not send me any more threatening letters. You knew my financial predicament at the time bail was posted. I still intend to honor my promise to perform professional services for you. You never promised to perform professional services for him. Your own letter says, it was my understanding that we would discuss my opportunity to provide some type of service to you or your business in lieu of paying for the bond. Given the above-mentioned discussions that we had at the time, I now consider your... Discussions aren't a contract, madam.
Let me tell you what happened.
Yeah,
because he's not telling you the whole truth. What happened, he bails me out.
Are you, just a second, are you telling me the whole truth? Listen, are you telling me the whole truth?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
About your children's living arrangements, you're telling me the whole truth?
We're not talking about my children right now. I want to tell you.
You mean you're telling the truth?
About what
Listen to me.
happened.
You're telling the truth sometimes, and sometimes you can lie. And when am I supposed to tell the difference? You see, I knew that you were lying to me about your children's living situation. That you're not willing to discuss.
What do you lie about?
Listen to me. My question to you is, how am I supposed to tell when you're lying, and how am I supposed to tell when you're telling the truth?
I do tell the truth.
But you just lied to me today.
About what?
You lied about your children's living situation.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
How did I lie?
Oh, yes, you did. And you know you did. You know that they live with me part-time, they live with some part-time, they live here because I work. That's not the story. But that's a story you chose to tell me. Now, you told me that with the same veracity as you told me that you had another contract with him. And my question to you is, how am I supposed to tell when you're telling the truth and when you're lying?
What I'm saying is the truth.
Okay. Now I'm going to hear you, and then I'll tell you what the law is.
Okay. Well, he bails me out. He drives me to my vehicle. On the way to my vehicle, he makes comments about, and he says, well, it would be nice if a pretty woman like you worked for my company doing some sort of marketing and promoting my company, and maybe we can work something out in terms of paying for the bail bond that he posted on my behalf. So when he dropped me off by my vehicle, and before he left, he made me sign the agreement that you saw after we had the conversation of me potentially working for his company.
Did you get what you said to me, madam? You just said to me, maybe you could work for my company. maybe you could work for my company.
And
that's not an agreement.
No,
that's
and
not.
that,
No. After that, nothing. You took that, and I believe that you said that to her. Well, maybe you could work for my company and do something. Maybe you said it to her. Who cares? It's not relevant. There was no contract.
I said I couldn't work for him full time as he proposed.
It doesn't.
So he
no, madam.
We can work something out, and you can work for me on weekends.
Your Honor.
Oh, listen to me. Listen to me. You're making it up as you're going along.
No.
Yes.
No, I have
you
a
are, because
letter.
according to what you said to me, after you had that discussion, after, not before. You see, he said you signed this at the jail.
No.
You say I signed it after I had the discussion with him about working with him part-time, weekends, etc. If that was true, that's not contained in this agreement.
No.
And I believe, madam, that you are one smart cookie. And if he had this conversation with you where you made a contract with him, a contract that's enforceable, to work off the bail bond by working for him part-time, you would have put it in this agreement because you're already out of jail. You see, you're already out. Because you're already bailed out. So then you could either say to him, I'm not signing this. Or you say, it's not the entire agreement that we have. But you didn't. You signed it and said, I promise to pay you $5,000.
Well, he told me right there that if you don't sign it, I'm just going to put you right back to jail. That's what he told me.
I don't believe you. You're making it up as you're going along.
No.
You're making it up as you're going along because if he said to you, you sign this or I'm going to take you back to jail.
That's what he said?
Your response would have been, well, then put in our agreement that I could work it off, right? Right?
I was very stressed.
Oh, listen, it's not the first time you were arrested.
Signing.
That's why I asked you the question before.
Yeah,
it's not the first time. It's probably not the second time that you were arrested. So pay him his money. You owe him his money. Don't be a con artist. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Jennifer Day is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old Spencer Fenimore, for breaking a lease. Spencer claims there was no lease to break.
Miss Day, you and Mr. Fenimore lived together for a period of time, signed a lease on an apartment, lived together during the course of that lease. The lease was renewed, according to you, for another 6 months, and Mr. Fenimore moved out after a month or so. You want him to be responsible for his half of the remainder of the lease. Mr. Fenimore, while he acknowledges that you signed an initial lease together, his defense is that he did not sign the renewal that you must have signed for him. You knew that he was intending to leave, that things weren't going well between the two of you, and he is not responsible for the second part of the lease. So can I see the first lease that you signed? When did you move in together?
It was, I believe, December 2004.
Well, the lease was signed November 2005.
I think it was 2004. I'm not real correct on that.
Well, what am I looking at? November 29, 2005. What?
That's probably our renewal lease.
I didn't ask for the renewal. I asked for the original lease.
This isn't the actual lease, but it's part of the first lease that has the 12/8/04 date that Spencer was speaking of.
Can I see it, please? Yeah. Okay. So the original was signed on 12/8/04, and you claim the renewal was signed by him on November 29th, 2005.
That's correct.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you sign the renewal?
Yes.
You said in your answer you didn't sign the renewal.
I signed the renewal that went from November 2005 until May 2006. She's suing me from May 2006 to November 2006.
Got it. So who has that renewal?
The one that I handed to you shows that we went in the office and verbally renewed, and I have a letter from the office dated June 1st.
You can't verbally renew. Cannot verbally renew a 6-month lease. That's ridiculous. He says he did not renew the lease. You have no proof that he did renew the lease.
If he didn't want to renew the lease, Your Honor, he shouldn't have stayed there till July.
Because then you can have a month-to-month tenancy.
Okay.
You can have a month-to-month tenancy and
Correct.
pay every month until the landlord says, listen, I don't want to give you a month-to-month tenancy anymore. You have to leave within 30 days. Then you leave.
Right.
But you can't obligate him. Sorry. Case is dismissed.
Corey and Tammy Shanks say Corey's ex-girlfriend, Melissa Blankenship, ran his Dodge truck into a mailbox. Melissa is countersuing for the return of furniture.
Mr. Shanks, this lady is your former wife, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But you are now back together and trying to reconcile.
Yes, ma'am.
And Miss Blankenship was your girlfriend
Yes, ma'am.
for a brief period of time.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the complaint, although the complaint is written by your wife, it really has to do with you. So we're going to find out exactly what it's all about. You claim that Miss Blankenship damaged a truck. It was a truck that belonged to you. She hit a mailbox or something with it, is that right?
Yes.
And you want her to pay for the damages to that truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Blankenship says that she did, in fact, have an accident with the truck, hit the mailbox, there was some minor damage, she told you about it, and at some point you told her to forget about it because you had moved her in with her children or child?
My child.
With her child into another house that you owned, and she relocated because you were together. Then when you decided to go back to your wife, she was told that she had to vacate the property immediately.
She had exactly a week and a half to
A week.
clear the vacant.
And the suggestion is because you told her she had to get out of the house within a week, you told her to just forget about the damage to the truck. When were you divorced, Mr. Shanks?
I was getting ready to go through the divorce in June 2005.
When did you meet Miss Blankenship?
About the same time, about June.
Okay. And when did you purchase this second house?
Obtained the house around June, July, in between there.
And when did Miss Blankenship move into the house with her daughter?
When the house closed, and it was in August.
And that was at your suggestion?
Well,
you were together?
Yes, but, Your Honor, it was more or less where she wanted to more or less move in. You know, she asked me to move in, and the stipulation was she was supposed to obtain the home, take care of everything while I was gone since I'm an over-the-road truck driver, and she was going to start up a daycare with herself and her witness.
So what you're saying is she moved into the house, but she was supposed to pay all the bills in the house?
No.
From the daycare?
No, it was more or less like she wanted to start up the daycare.
Well, what did that have to do with you, Mr. Shanks?
Well, really, it doesn't, Your Honor.
Well, so then I'm not interested in it if it doesn't have anything to do with you. Okay, so she moved into the house, and when you weren't on the road in your truck, where did you stay?
I only stayed in that home maybe one night.
With her?
Yes, one night.
And you shared a room?
Yes.
Before she moved into the house, where was she living?
She was living in an apartment complex.
How many nights did you spend there?
Maybe 2 at the most, ma'am.
And when you stayed there, did you share a room?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you purchased this new house, was it the idea that you would be living there as a family when you weren't on the road?
No, ma'am.
What was the idea of the new house, sir?
The idea of the new home is I wanted to move away from my old home state where I used to live at, and I just wanted to start over myself. I mean, the only reason I let Miss Blankenship move in was the idea of her wanting to start up the daycare.
Mr. Shanks, you're having second thoughts about this, sir, because of the lady standing next to you. But your conversation to me doesn't make sense. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't make sense that you bought another house in another area and Miss Blankenship was moving in there to start a daycare center. That doesn't make sense, sir. I haven't even asked her anything. So don't try to pull my leg. I don't like it. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
If you had second thoughts about Miss Blankenship and your relationship and you wanted to go home to your wife, that's fine. But don't lie. I don't like it. Now let's get back to the truck. At the time that Miss Blankenship damaged the truck, she called you. Where were you?
I was out on the road.
And what did she tell you?
That the truck was hit by the mailbox.
No, she didn't say that at all. Don't be a wise guy. What did she tell you?
She told me she hit the mailbox.
That she hit the mailbox, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she apologize?
Yes, she was very apologetic to it, yes.
Now, at that time, had you gone back to your wife yet?
No.
Did you tell her that you were thinking about going back to your wife?
No.
Had you told her that she had to move her property out?
I told her, when I told her to move out the property, and this is going to bring up the daycare again, that she wasn't getting the daycare going, and the home wasn't being taken care of.
When she used your truck, what was she using it for?
In the moving process, I think.
So you were told her to move, in or out?
It was, I'm pretty sure it was in, ma'am.
Were you moving in or out when you were using the truck?
Actually, when I wrecked the truck, he was in town. He asked me to go get jumper cables, I think it was, so he could get his truck jumped because the batteries went dead. So he was in town.
Where was he in town?
He was over by the apartment complex that I used to live at, and I had already moved into the home.
Okay. So that was sometime in August?
Yes.
Now, after you had this problem with the truck, you went to a mailbox.
Right.
Did he ever spend the night with you in the house again?
Yes.
How many times?
I think he was there one more night, and then he left.
After the damage to the truck?
After the damage to the pickup.
Now, did you see the damage to the truck, Mr. Shanks?
Yes, ma'am.
Where was the truck when you saw it?
I'm pretty sure it was at the apartment complex, ma'am.
Apartment complex or the house?
I think it was at the apartment complex.
So it was drivable?
Yes, it was drivable.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding your seeing it at the apartment complex, sir.
I was,
What were you doing there? What were you doing there?
I would think I was getting ready to leave, but I can't recollect it.
What?
In the truck, in my semi.
You mean getting ready to leave her apartment?
Yes, the semi was parked at the apartment.
At her apartment?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what did you say to Miss Blankenship, sir, when she told you that she had had this accident with the truck, and you saw the truck, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What'd you say?
I told her, I said it needs to be replaced, you need to get it fixed, and it needs to be done. I mean, I was really upset about my truck being wrecked.
Well, it wasn't wrecked, sir, because you said you saw it at the apartment complex. So it wasn't wrecked, it was drivable.
Yes, it was drivable, but the way them Dodges are set up and everything, they've got plastic and little sheet metal and all that stuff on them anymore, and just hitting the mailbox did do a lot of damage to the front of that truck. I mean, it's very noticeable.
You want to show me a picture of it, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
There's also pictures in the mailbox post and at the house where the mailbox sits.
Truck isn't wrecked, sir. It's got a little damage on it. There's some bumper scratches. Big deal. You see what your problem is, sir? First, you moved her out of her apartment with her child into a house that you had purchased. And the plan was for you to live there when you weren't on the road. That was the plan. I mean, that's clear. There's no question about that. Then you decide to get back with your wife. And your wife is irritated that the truck is damaged. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's too bad. What are you mad at her for?
I'm not, ma'am.
Well, you shouldn't be. He's the one who disrupted her life. Moved her out of her apartment into a house and then told her she had to move because he was going back with you. Don't you see who the villain here is? It's not her. Don't you get it? Did I have to explain that to you? No. So why are you here? Over a couple of $100 damage to a truck? He ruined her life. That's not her fault. That's probably yours too. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe her when she says that the reason she was moving your truck was because you asked her to go get jumper cables with your truck.
I can't remember that far back, Your Honor.
Well, if you can't remember, she does.
I know the truck was driven without my permission.
That's not true. If you asked her to go get jumper cables, she used your truck. She was living in your house. You were sleeping with her. You had an intimate relationship. Get over it. You made a mistake. And grow up. Now, what stuff did she leave behind in the house?
I've got pictures of the furniture.
And where is the furniture that she left behind?
Is that
Take your hands out of your pockets.
It's at the address of the home in St. Charles.
Where do you want him to deliver your property? He's going to deliver it. He caused the problem, right?
Yes, ma'am.
To Mary's apartment. Miss Kelly's apartment.
All of her property goes back to her. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And you make sure that it gets there. It's your responsibility. You had a change of heart, sir. You have to behave like a grown-up. Just because you act irresponsibly most of the time with the women in your life doesn't mean you're going to act irresponsibly here. I mean, I read the papers. You relocated this lady and her child with a promise that you were going to have a life together, that she was going to start a business in the home. And because you had a change of heart, you told her, sorry, you have to move. Now, you moved once, now you have to move again. Where did you move to? Back to the complex?
No, I had lost my apartment because of him promising we were going to have a life together.
Where are you living now?
I relocated closer to home, closer to my parents.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Yes.
May I say something?
Yes.
She spent 2 nights in her car because she had nowhere to go.
My daughter stayed with a friend because I did not want to be a burden on anyone else. I let my daughter stay so she would not be without.
How old is she?
She's 11. She was 10 at the time.
You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
She gets all of her property back. Make sure that that happens, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Take care of the truck yourself. It's the least you could do. And tell your wife to get over it. You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Goodbye.
Rachel Rhodes is suing her ex-boyfriend, Eric Nelson, for the return of payments and repair costs for a vehicle he financed. Eric says The car was repossessed because Rachel missed payments.
Miss Rose, Mr. Nelson is a former boyfriend of yours.
Correct.
And he financed a car. He was responsible for the payments on the car, but it was your car.
Correct.
The agreement was you were to make the payments on the car. When the car was paid off, it would be yours.
Correct.
Well, what happened is that you missed some payments on the car. Couple, 2, maybe 3. And the car was repossessed by the company. Is that right so far?
So far, I made a payment. I had placed it on the drop box.
I don't want to hear that you made the payment. You placed it on the drop box. They didn't cash the check, but then you missed 2 more payments. You missed payments, correct?
Yes.
And the car was repossessed. You called up the company, and the company said, well, if you make up all the payments that you missed, we'll give you the car back. You were prepared to make up the payments, right?
Correct.
But Mr. Nelson says, I'm not going to sign off on you getting the car back because I don't trust that you're going to continue to make the payments on the car. Let them take back the car. I'll make up the missed payments, and I just want this off my record so I don't have to worry about it anymore. So you're suing him for not making it easy for you to get the car back from the company. That's your lawsuit?
Yes.
Lawsuit, Ms. Rose.
Well, Your Honor, I have the paperwork pertaining to the money order that I had purchased and I had put in the drop box. After the 29th of December, I had called and checked the status of the money order. The money order had not been cashed.
Ms. Rhodes, you don't seem to get me. After you had this alleged mishap with a money order that you allegedly put in a drop box at the car company, which they didn't cash, you then missed 2 more payments.
Ma'am, the payment was for, the money order was for $250.
You then missed, according to your own statement, 2 more payments because you had trouble. Is that correct?
No, it's not correct.
Well, that's what you wrote here. That's what you wrote here. How many more months of payments did you miss?
I only missed, to my knowledge, I missed 3 payments, which is a month worth of payments.
You missed 3 payments, and the car was repossessed.
That's correct, but as far as I know, I thought the payments were current.
Well, they weren't current, and you have no cause of action against Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson doesn't have to make it easy for you to get your car back from the company. That's not his responsibility. Your responsibility is to see to it that the payments are made on time, and they are made to the right place, and to check and see if they were cashed, and to check and see that his credit is not at risk. That's your job. He was being very nice to you, but things transpired, which we'll get to in a moment, because you have a counterclaim that suggested to him that you were not particularly a trustworthy person. So he wasn't going to make it easy for you to get the car back, and he has no legal obligation to do that. And this is, of course, a court of law. And in a court of law, he is not under legal obligation to get you your car back from the finance company after you missed, I don't care if you missed 1 payment. According to you, you missed 3.
Well, can I say this?
Sure.
If I wasn't such a trustworthy person, I was able to pay the money to get the car back, but he didn't want to do that. But he told me that I can give him the $500 so that I can drive another car of his that he had parked.
Well, let me tell you why he thinks that you're not particularly a trustworthy person. He has a counterclaim for the missed payments that he had to make up.
Yes, ma'am.
But more importantly, his counterclaim asks for money for a paternity test because you had a child, she believed to be his child. He put his name on the child's birth certificate. He paid child support. I don't know whether he saw the child regularly.
He paid child support? No.
Did you pay any child support, sir, to her?
No, ma'am, I haven't paid to her because I have a lawyer at this time.
Were you living together when the child was born?
No, ma'am.
Did she tell you the child was yours?
Yes, ma'am.
And you believed her?
Yes, ma'am.
And you took a paternity test?
Yes, ma'am.
And the paternity test said the child could not have been yours?
0% probability.
That's why he doesn't trust you.
Okay. Can I say this? Yes. He took a paternity test. I didn't know nothing about the paternity test. I wasn't there when he swabbed my daughter's mouth. I don't know. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he could have, I don't know.
He could have, but I think you certainly have to go to court to find out. Have you been to court yet?
Yes, we've been to court.
And what happened when you went to court?
We went to court, and by him signing the paternity affidavit, they stated that if it is his child or if it's not his child, that he needs to pay
child support. So the court where you are said Mr. Nelson is out of luck because he was told that the child was his by you, and because he signed the affidavit of paternity based on what you told him, he's going to pay child support whether the child is his or not. That's what you just told me.
I mean, that's what they said.
That's what you just told me that he was told.
Yes.
That wouldn't make me happy.
No.
That wouldn't make me believe that you are a particularly trustworthy person. This was not a court-ordered blood test, is that right?
No, ma'am.
You took the child yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you have to proceed through the courts. You hired an attorney. That's the first smart thing that you did.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. And do you have a court date?
Yes, I do.
When?
My lawyer has gotten us a court date to go back to court on May the 15th, so we could rescind the paternity affidavit that was already filed against
Fine.
me.
Well, at that point, Ms. Rhodes, the baby, as well as you, will be sent to a laboratory to take a paternity test. And at that time, with all three parties present, the court will at least be satisfied that the test is done properly. Ms. Rhodes at this point knows that she's on notice, that if there is a possibility that you are not the biological father of this child, that that is not a good thing. So I suggest you start searching in memory to figure out if there's any possibility that he's not the father.
Okay.
Got it?
Got it.
Good. So you have no cause of action against him for the car. He doesn't have to assist you in getting the car back from the finance company. If you can convince them to give the car to you, that's super. And if you can't, you shouldn't have missed the payments which caused it to be repossessed. Now, the defendant's counterclaim is granted in the amount of $275, not for the paternity test, sir, because the paternity test was not an authorized test and it was not done by the courts. If you had been forced to pay for a paternity test through the courts, I might have entertained your application if it was done with all three parties present.
Teresa Saavedra is suing Adam Rivas for taking and wrecking her car. In a separate suit, the Benedettos are suing Teresa and Adam for damage to their classic Nissan 300ZX.
Who is Miss Saavedra? And Mr. Rivas? Why don't you folks have a seat, please, first, because I'm going to take care of this case first. Miss Saavedra, stand over there, because this case is a little complicated. I'm going to uncomplicate it for everybody. You own a car.
Right.
Or owned a car. What kind of car did you own?
It was a Ford
Speak
Taurus.
up.
Ford Taurus.
Mr. Rivas was your boyfriend?
No.
A friend?
Yeah.
According to your complaint, he stole your car.
Right.
You reported it stolen.
Right.
He was in an accident. Totaled the car?
Correct.
You want him to pay you the value of the car or $5,000 because it was worth more than $5,000, but that's the limit of small claims court.
Correct.
Mr. Rivas says that he did not steal your car. He borrowed your car. He had an accident that was not his fault, and he shouldn't have to pay for it. That's your defense.
Yes.
These are the people who were involved in the accident. So we'll get to their case in a minute.
Okay.
Because they are suing the two of you. You as the owner of the car, and he is the driver of the car.
Right.
You get it?
I got it.
Correct. So, Mr. Rivas, when did you take the car?
Actually, we drove off the lot together with it, and she gave me the car. It was a gift. It was a gift.
Is what you're telling me, sir, that you drove off the lot the day the car was purchased?
Yes.
Did this accident occur at that time?
No.
How much time passed before the accident happened?
I would say about 3 weeks.
Who purchased the car?
She did.
And in whose name was the car?
Under her name.
Who paid for the car?
She did.
And she gave you the car as a gift?
Well, actually, I gave the down payment, which was like $300 for it.
Why was that, Mr. Rivas?
Because we had an agreement that the car would be mine if, you know, if she took the car out. And all I would have to do is give the down payment or the deposit for the car.
Ah, I get it. Mr. Rivas, why can't you have a car in your name?
Because I don't have a license.
Why else?
That's it.
Why don't you have a license, Mr. Rivas?
It was revoked.
When?
I was like 17.
How old are you now?
21.
And when did you make this arrangement with Miss Saavedra?
After 2 weeks I met her, we came to an agreement to go to drive time and take out a car.
Now, why would she do that for you if you were just friends?
I don't know, the kindness out of her heart, I guess.
Shh. Now, if I were to call drive time, would they tell me that the two of you were in there together?
Yes.
When was the car purchased, Miss Saavedra?
5/17/04.
From the time you drove the car, sir, May 17th, 2004, until the day of the accident, which was on what date?
It had to be a couple weeks after that. I'm not too sure.
When was the accident, folks?
5/7/04.
So you mean the accident was 5/7/04, and you purchased the car 5/17/04, so Somehow that doesn't work out, Ms. Saavedra. Not even in the twilight zone of this courtroom. Purchased a car.
42204.
Ms. Saavedra, look at me. Was Mr. Rivas with you at drive time when you purchased the car?
Yes, he was.
All right. You see, none of this was in this paperwork. Do you think you're going to come here and throw some baloney to me that he stole the car?
No.
All right. From April 22nd, 2004 until May 7th, 2004, Mr. Rivas, did you have the car in your possession?
Yes, I did.
And you paid the $300 deposit?
Yes, I did.
Did you pay by check or cash?
It was cash.
Who did you give the cash to?
To the car salesman.
You have a copy of the contract? Yes. Does the contract say that there was a $300 deposit?
Yes, right here.
And does it say the $300 deposit was in cash?
No, it does not.
It was by check?
It says the total cost of the purchase is on credit, including your down payment, which is $300. It does not say anywhere about being in cash.
You didn't give him a check, though?
No.
So Mr. Rivas gave him cash?
He never gave anybody money.
Mr. Rivas drove the car out of the lot?
No, he did not.
Did you ever have the car in your possession from April 22nd until May 7th?
Yes, I did.
When?
The day that I drove it off the lot, and about a couple of days after, and then I stopped, and then I met up with him, and then we...
What do you mean you stopped?
I just thought I wasn't able to go. I didn't go anywhere, so I was in my house. And then he called threatening me to kill me. So then I...
Ms. Saavedra, do you think that I believe anything of what you're telling me now? I believe him. I believe him that you went to this drive time, because you didn't tell me anything about that in the paper. What you said in your complaint was he stole your car, and you reported the car stolen. And that's not what happened, is it?
Well, it is.
That's not really what happened, is it?
No, it is what happened. I have a police report and everything that I had made.
On what date?
5/14/04.
On the 14th of May?
Yes.
That's a week after the accident.
But he had took the car already.
A week after the accident, you reported the car stolen? When did he take the car? Ms. Saavedra, don't play around with me. When did he take the car?
I don't know the exact date, ma'am, but I just know he had took the car.
Well, why didn't you...
Just
a second. Why didn't you report it stolen the day he took the car?
I was scared. I didn't know what to do. And I had called him on his cell phone telling him he would bring it back, and he said that he will bring it back.
I don't believe you. I think you're full of baloney. I think you entered into a scam with him because you knew he had a suspended license, whether you liked him or not, whatever. I have no idea, nor do I care. But you went, you drove this car out, he took possession of the car, he drove the car, he had an accident, and now you're stuck with the payments. That's what happened. And then a week after the accident, you reported stolen to the police. Now,
can I say, why would I honestly give anybody my car keys, you know, a brand new car?
Because, Ms. Saavedra, I do not believe you had any intention of this being your car. I believe that the intention was for Mr. Rivas to use this car, to make the payments on the car, because he had no license, and he got you as a patsy to put the car in your name. That's what I think happened. And then, when you realized that the car was in an accident and you were going to be in real trouble, a week later, you reported it stolen to the police. You didn't report it stolen a week before the accident. Let me see a copy of the police report.
He would go to my house honking, screaming my name.
I don't believe a word you're saying to me. Not a word, Ms. Saavedra. I think you got yourself caught in a scam. You did the wrong thing. That doesn't mean you're relieved, sir. You still drove this car. You had no right driving any car because you had a suspended license.
Yes, I understand that.
Well, where are you going to accept responsibility for that?
Take responsibilities for the car accident.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
It's not what you say here. You tell me that this lady was driving, she was drunk. That's what you said in your answer. I'm going to get to that case in a minute.
Okay.
What about this lady's car? We're not on this case yet. You drove the car. You had no insurance?
No.
Why didn't you pay for insurance?
Because,
Because it wasn't your car.
Correct.
Because it was in her name.
Correct.
Right? So the only one who's going to get stiffed was her, right?
Correct.
How much was the car?
Total cost of the car was $18,569.96.
And you had no insurance?
No.
Well, maximum that this court is allowed to award you Let me see those papers, Bert, please.
Sure.
It's $5,000. You're on the books for the rest. Do you work?
Not yet, ma'am.
Not yet?
No.
How old are you?
22.
When are you going to start to work?
I just moved and I quit my job and I moved and I'm looking for a job now.
And what about you?
Not right now. Not at the moment.
Who feeds you?
Myself.
That means that somebody's got to give you money for food.
Well, I'm living under my parents' roof right now, so.
How old are you?
21.
What do your parents do for a living?
They own their own landscaping company.
Good. Are you disabled?
No, no, ma'am.
Then you work for them in cash. Because if they own their own landscaping business, I guarantee you I'm going to find a couple of people whose lawn you mow. Mr. Rivas, do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
On your best day, you're not as smart as we are on our worst day. How many people you think I'm going to find whose lawns you mow, Mr. Rivas?
Not too sure. Not too sure, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Your father mows people's lawns?
Yes, ma'am.
How many people does he have working for him?
About 10.
Are you on the books of the company? Is not an answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, if you're on the books of the company, then you get money. What's the name of the company?
Rivas Landscaping.
Rivas Landscaping. Very easy.
Yes, ma'am.
You're her $5,000, sir. But it doesn't go to her, it goes to the finance company. Now you can stand over next to him. Because now you're a co-defendant as the owner of the car, who I just figured out was full of baloney when she said the car was stolen. The car was part of a scam. You didn't think it was a scam because you're too young and stupid, but it was a scam. Now you may stand up. Mr. and Mrs. Benedetto?
Yes, ma'am.
On what day was the accident? The 7th of
May.
May?
7th.
No. You want to tell me what happened?
I pulled out of the gas station. When I get gas, I usually toss my wallet in the car. Well, when I got in the car, I drove up the street, and I didn't see my wallet there, so I figured it had bounced. So I pulled over, and when I pulled over...
Pulled over where?
I pulled over on the side of the street.
Is it a street where you can't pull over? It's where cars are parked?
Right, parking. So I pulled over and got out of the car, went around to see if the wallet had fallen off to the side, because if it hadn't and it had bounced off, then I needed to go back to the gas station. So I put my knee on the seat, and next thing, there was just this big bang on the side of the car, and the car started to go over. In the meantime, I went over to the side as the car is going over.
You weren't in the car, you weren't in the driver's seat?
No, I was in the passenger seat.
You weren't moving at the time?
No, I was not moving.
What happened to your car?
It went over on the side. And
Can I see pictures of it?
Sure.
Who else was in the car with you?
Nobody. It was just me. I was on my way to meet my dad.
This is your husband?
That's my husband, yes.
So he is the co-owner of the car?
He is the owner.
Ooh, that's a nasty hit. I'm listening.
From what I recall, I was going straight down Devonshire, and
where were you going, sir?
I was going home.
From where?
From one of my friend's house down the street.
What were you doing there?
I was just chilling.
What?
Chilling, kicking it.
Oh, your parents must be so proud of you. Go ahead.
And I was driving down Devonshire, and she just pulled out, because I was going straight on, and she pulled out, and I hit her.
Well, she pulled out and you hit her, so you would have hit her in the front. You hit her at the rear of her car. How could you have hit her in the rear if she was pulling out?
Because I guess she was already on her way, and I guess I hit her in the back.
So if she's already on her way and you hit her in the rear, that means you weren't looking where you were going. Maybe you were chilling a little too much, kicking it a little too much with your friend. Maybe you ought to get out there more often and mow a few more lawns. Mr. Rivas, from Rivas Landscaping. When was the last time you filed tax return? It's not an answer.
I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever filed them.
The police came to the scene, Mr. Rivas. You were arrested, were you not?
Yes, I was.
What were you arrested for, Mr. Rivas?
I was arrested for driving without a license.
What else?
That's it.
You have any other warrants outstanding when you were arrested? It's not an answer, Mr. Rivas.
Yes, I did. I did.
Mr. Rivas, you're still trying to get over on me, sir. I've been a judge longer than you've been born. You think you're an unusual story? You're not. You're just a punk who caused a great deal of trouble for a lot of people because you're not entitled to drive a car if your license is suspended and you have no license. You conned this lady, so now she's in the hole for $13,000. You injured these people, their property. You almost killed her. There's a reason why the government didn't give you a license, sir. Because you shouldn't have one. Because you're an irresponsible baby. Oh. Are you an only child?
No, I'm actually the middle child.
There's also a problem with that. Were you able to have the car fixed or was it totaled?
It was totaled.
What kind of car was it?
1987 300 ZX.
Do you have a blue book value for the car?
Blue book is roughly $3,500.
Can I see that?
I'm sorry, that was $3,400.
Can I see
And
that?
I also have some comparables.
That's all right. I know the car.
I should mention that we did a great deal of additional work in that, the alternator, the water pump.
He's an idiot. What do you want me to do? I can't execute him. The only thing I can do for you is humiliate him a little bit and give you a judgment. What else am I going to do with him? His parents are not going to be proud of him. Revis Landscaping and the people whose lawns he mowed are going to know that he's an idiot. If they see him driving around in a truck, they're going to know he has no right to do that. Anybody who lives in the neighborhood, when they see him driving a car, is going to call the police now and say there's somebody driving without a license, right? Do you understand?
I understand.
There was a reason he was late for court today, right? He was thinking, am I going to be dumb enough to go to court? What's going to happen to me? He had no clue how far it was going to go.
Hopefully he didn't hit anybody else's car on the way over.
Hopefully, sir. Hopefully. I'm not so sure. You got lost on your way coming here, Mr. Rivas?
No, I didn't.
How did you get here today? Is not an answer.
I got a ride.
You got a ride? Who drove you? There's a guard outside. Who drove you?
I don't remember her name.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,500, which is a little over the blue book value of your car. You are a menace, sir. You don't deserve to be behind the wheel of a car. If anybody in your neighborhood, if anybody in the vicinity sees you behind the wheel of a car, I assume you do not have your driver's license?
No.
Is that right? Call the police, everyone. He's a menace and does not have a driver's license, nor will he probably get one for a very long time. Thank you very much. That's all.
27-year-old car parents, Harris and Judy Taub, are suing their neighbors, 13-year-old Kimberly Gilmer and her mother, Martha, for car repair bills.
Mr. and Mrs. Taub, and I assume this is your daughter.
Right.
Who, according to your complaint, is entering law school.
I just finished law school, actually.
You
and
just
took the
finished
bar.
law school.
Yeah.
Good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck. According to your complaint, you purchased this car for her. You a neighbor of the defendants? Do you live across the street from each other, or was she just visiting a neighbor?
I was visiting.
She was visiting a neighbor of yours, and her daughter got into her car and either backed or moved forward, and her car hit your car, causing some damage. Do you have pictures of the damage?
We do.
I'd like to see it, please. Where did you go to law school, Ms. Taub?
Golden Gate University in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is the tire on the back. I couldn't figure out what it was. It looked like a satellite.
It's a Honda 2001 SUV with a spare tire that's on the back of the
Now I got it. How old are you?
I just turned 13.
When did this happen?
August 14th.
What time of the day or evening did you go out and get into this car?
Like the afternoon.
Whose car did you get into?
My mom's.
Why?
Because we were about to go home.
Who gave you the keys to the car?
My mom's purse was in my grandma's house, and I knew she would forget it, so I had her purse on my shoulder.
So you had your mother's purse on your shoulder. You took the keys?
Yes.
Why did you start the car?
Because it was a really hot day, and I wanted to turn the air conditioning on so it would get cool in the car when we were driving.
But you hit their car. How did that happen?
Because I didn't know the car was in gear, and I didn't know it would move, and when I put the keys in the ignition and turned it, it jumped forward because the car was in, or lunged forward because the car was in gear.
Tell me your first name.
Kimberly.
Have you ever put the key in the car before? Kimberly? Have you
Yeah.
ever... Where were you when you put the key in the car before?
The key in my mom's car or someone else's car?
In your mom. Let's try your mom's car.
At our house, just putting them in.
For what reason?
I don't know. Just because.
Where did you get the keys from when you just because put it in the ignition?
From in her car, because she always puts her purse in the car.
Has your mother ever said to you, don't take the keys out of my car and don't start the car?
Yes.
Hmm?
Yes.
So why do you do it?
Because I didn't listen to her.
Right. So now, Kimberly, your mom gave you her pocketbook or you took it?
I took it.
And did you tell her you were going outside to wait for her?
Well, we all went outside. Me and my older sister, her boyfriend, and my mom.
So your mother saw that you had her pocketbook?
I don't know if she saw I had it, but...
Well, she didn't leave her pocketbook in the house, did she? You were all getting ready to go. Don't speak to her. So, Kimberly, these people are in their house not doing anything. Their car is sitting on the street in a legally parked space, and you get in the car, and you start the car, and you lunge forward, and you damage their car. Who do you think is responsible?
Me.
Great!
But...
Just a second. Great! Now I'll hear your but.
But I didn't. It's not like I purposely tried to hit their car.
That's why they call it an accident.
Yeah.
Whose fault is it?
Mine.
Right. And if you were an adult, you would have to pay for it, right?
Right.
Because it was an accident that was your fault. Even though it wasn't purposeful, you didn't get into the car with a view towards damaging somebody else's property. That's why we call it an accident. But since you're 12 and not responsible under the law, so I can't make a judgment against you, I have to make a judgment against you. Right? Perfect. Then we understand each other. How much did it cost to fix it?
Well, we haven't gotten it fixed yet.
What's your estimate?
$945, close to $950.
$945. Yeah. How many estimates do you have?
We have two. The one I like, though, the brunt of the damage was done on this wheel cover. It's cockeyed. And what the mechanic said to me made sense.
Don't tell me what the mechanic said to you. Just let me see the two estimates.
Sure. Judge Judy, can I tell you how it really happened? Are you interested? Okay.
Sure, I am interested. Okay. Always interested if somebody's not telling me the truth.
Okay. Well, I was reading. It was around
I don't care what you were doing.
5 o'clock. Quiet. I hear noise outside. Like, I thought they were drunken kids outside before I even saw them, just by the noise element and how they were giggling and laughing.
Let's go. I have other things to do today.
And I see the two kids. They talk to a fella, and I figured, well, you can't stop kids from being on the street. I went back to read a book. About a minute later, I looked out again. I just got a gut feeling nothing good was going to come of this. I see her get into the car, sans pocketbook, no pocketbook. And the other, her girlfriend, was egging her on. And they were both
What do you mean? Don't tell me she was egging her on. What did
do
she
it,
say?
do it. You're not going to do it. Do it. You're not going to do it. I know you're not going to do it. And they were both laughing. I mean, really laughing. And now I'm glued to the window because this car it doesn't even have a paint job. It's like a black matte primer.
I got it.
And then she talked to a fella in a truck. I think maybe she's 16, so
Whatever.
I thought she's going to back out and take off.
Whatever.
But what she did was put it in gear and accelerate. It was such a loud noise.
She didn't do it on purpose. It was an accident. She didn't mean to hurt your car. She didn't mean to hurt her mother's car. She had no business being in a car. She had no business being in possession of the car keys.
Right.
Her mother's statement is she has trouble with her. She can't watch her 24/7, therefore it's not her fault. That's pretty much what she said in your statement. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, as between you and these poor people, you're responsible for the damage your daughter does. And if I were you, I'd have her do a whole bunch of something, babysitting, whatever it is.
I already do babysit.
Well, what do you do with the money that you make from babysitting?
Use it, like go to the mall with my friends.
Well, why don't you give it to your mother so that you can help pay for this property damage that you caused? Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $742.47, which is the amount of the lower estimate. That's all. Step out. Take responsibility for what you do. That's all.
Thank you.
25-year-old Suzanne Hiller is suing her ex-husband, Patrick King, for her lost wages after their daughter broke her leg.
That's case number 398 on the calendar in the matter of Hiller versus King. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Miss Hiller, you used to be married to Mr. King. You have one child together, is that right?
Yeah.
Child is now 6?
7.
7. Sometime last year, Mr. King was enjoying visitation with his daughter, and she had an accident and broke her leg. And you stayed home to take care of her. You weren't working at the time, having lost your job about a week before this accident. You claim that you asked Mr. King to give you extra money for the purposes of having somebody come to the house and watch your daughter while you went out to look for a job, and he refused. So you want your husband to compensate you for the time you spent home taking care of your daughter.
Correct.
Doesn't that sound ridiculous to you?
No, there's a little bit more to this story.
Well, that's the lawsuit.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume that during the period of this visitation, there was an accident when she broke her leg. How did it happen, Mr. King?
She had to use the restroom, and she had a friend over, and typically she waits a little too long sometimes, and she was in a hurry to get to the restroom. She was wearing socks, brand new, sparkly socks, which were really slippery, and she was running across the tile floor with her friend in chase behind her, and when she rounded the corner, she slipped and fell, and she's been told, you know.
Whatever. It's an accident. Now, Miss Hiller, is there anything that you know that suggests that this is not the way your daughter broke her leg? After all, she was 6 years old, so I'm sure you asked her. And she said she was running and she fell. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
But the story's changed. Now, I heard that she...
Now, just don't look at him. Look at me.
Okay. I heard that she was running on the tile in the kitchen, playing with her friend, and he was in the bathroom. My daughter
What difference does it make?
Because
I mean, you're not suggesting that Mr. King caused the injury, that it was anything other than an accident.
I'm sure it was an accident.
Right. Now, has your daughter ever been to an emergency room other than this incident?
No.
Has she ever seen the doctor on an emergency basis?
No.
Has she ever gotten a very bad cold or sore throat?
No.
Nothing. So she is a miraculous 7-year-old who has never been ill.
She's very healthy.
I didn't ask you if she was very healthy or not. I had a whole bunch of children, and they were always sick. Children go to school, they get sick. They go to nursery school, they get sick. They play with their friends, they fall down, they need a stitch, and they break an arm, or they sprain a wrist. That's what happens with children. That's not his fault. That's an accident. Now, why do you think that he should compensate you for taking care of your own child?
Because I had actually just lost my job. She had broken her leg on a Sunday, and I had lost my job on that Friday. So it had only been literally a couple of days. I got a phone call from him on that Sunday, which was the 5th of December, saying that it was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
I don't care. You have to understand something. I don't care about that. I don't care about the call, and she broke her leg, and I didn't take her to the doctor right away. It doesn't make any difference to me. He's her father. Accidents happen. She broke her leg. You're her mother. You're her primary custodian. You stayed home and took care of her, aside from the fact you weren't working. I want to know under what theory you believe that your former husband should compensate you for taking care of your own child.
I was unable to collect any sort of money at that time. I had no way to work because I didn't have anybody to watch my daughter. She was in a cast for almost 6 months.
So what does that have to do with him?
She was out of school for about 4 of it.
What does that have to do with him?
He wouldn't watch her. I would ask him to come over.
Just a second. Is it true that you wouldn't watch your daughter?
No, I tried to see her. I actually tried to take her for regular visitation, and she wouldn't allow me to. Because she said she couldn't use her crutches. She didn't want her out of the house on her cast. Numerous other excuses, but I was denied the right to see her.
Ms. Hiller, is that true?
That's not true.
You mean he asked you to come and pick her up, and you said you can come and pick her up, and he didn't?
He wouldn't. I would ask him, I said, can you please come over?
Not come over.
Oh, no. Yeah.
No. I'm not talking about coming over to your house. I'm talking about coming, picking up his daughter, and taking her to his house.
He wouldn't. He actually had the opportunity once. He was going to come once because it took a while for her to actually not be sedated because she was heavily sedated because of the severity of the break. I have a copy of the X-ray if you'd like to see it.
I would not. Are you telling me that a 6-year-old child was heavily sedated for more than a day or two?
It was probably about 3 weeks. She was on codeine.
I don't know what kind of a doctor you used keeping a 6-year-old on codeine. In any event, Miss Hiller, your former husband says that the reason you're here, the reason that you decided to sue him after all of this time, is because you had made a request. And that request was to send your daughter to live with some relatives for 10 months while you went back to school. Did you ask him to permit you and to amend your agreement and the court order of visitation to allow your daughter to go and live with relatives?
She was going to stay there for 2 months.
Stay where for 2 months?
St. Louis, Missouri. That's where my mother and father live, who she goes and visits every summer.
You asked your former husband if she could go to St. Louis. During what months?
It was the months of September, October, November.
That's school time. Where was she going to go to school?
My family was going to put her in school out there.
And he said no.
He said yes at first, and then he said no.
I never said yes. No way.
Mr. King, I have a sense that Miss Hiller has a problem with truth-telling.
You have a good sense, Your Honor.
That's totally incorrect.
Miss Hiller, he shouldn't even be asked if he will give up his daughter for 3 months for your convenience. That shouldn't be something that you should even consider. If you want to go to school, if you want to go on vacation, if you want to go trekking all over the world, you say to him, would you like, what's your daughter's name?
Ashlyn.
Ashlyn to come to live with you for the next 3 months
I've
or
been
6 months?
that.
Quiet.
Sorry.
I would like you to take Ashlyn for 3 months or 6 months because I want to go back to school. Whatever reason it was that you were going to send her to visit, to live, not visit, live with your parents. Because once she goes to live with your parents and they enroll her in school, that's not a visit. Did you ask Mr. King if he would be willing to take his daughter while you go back to school?
No.
Why not?
Because he's neglectful.
He is not neglectful, madam. You don't have a choice. If you want to send your daughter to live elsewhere, the first person who has the right to have custody of her is her father. Somebody that you picked, you married, and you chose to have a child with. And if you don't like that, that's too bad. But he's not a second-class citizen. If you want to go back to school, she goes to live with her father, not your parents 1,000 miles away. That's outrageous. And after he said no is when you filed this lawsuit. Outrageous. And I suggest that you not go to family court to seek permission for you to relocate your daughter, because Mr. King is going to get a copy of this tape, and your motivations are going to be quite clear.
But those are not my motivations.
You have no right to send your daughter to live with your parents to go to school when she has a parent here. If you are unwilling and unable to take care of her, then she goes to live with her father, not your parents, not your sister, not your cousin, not your aunt, not your godmother. She goes to live with her father, who says, I'm more than willing to take care of her if you don't want her in your custody.
I just feel he doesn't take care of her.
That's not your decision to make. You chose him as a mate, and you chose him as a father of your child. And I don't believe you when you say your daughter has never been sick, because she would be the only child in creation who has not had an ear infection, a bad cold, a fever. The only one that I know of. I have 5 children, 11 grandchildren. All of them have been sick. And I got news for you. They have wonderful parents, at least as good as you. So when you say she's very healthy, never been sick, I don't believe you.
She's had the flu.
Oh.
But she's never been to the doctor because of an
Well,
accident,
if you didn't take, just a second, if you didn't take her to the doctor and she had the flu, you're a neglectful parent. Because if flu, you have a big fever. Then you call the doctor and you check it. And if you didn't, you're neglectful. See how easy that is? You don't think you're a neglectful parent, do you? He's not neglectful because his child broke her leg while visiting with him. It was an accident. Get over it. And if you can't take care of her because you want to go to school, you have to say to her father, I can't manage her and my school. Will you take her while I'm in school? And if you choose not to do that, then she stays with you. But you don't retaliate by bringing a lawsuit against him. That's outrageous.
But I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I had asked him for money earlier. I had asked him to help me with daycare.
You didn't bring the lawsuit until after he said, I'm not consenting to your sending her to St. Louis.
We had made other arrangements.
Just a second. Okay. You have no right to ask him that. You have no right to be angry at him when he says no. This child has 2 parents, a mother and a father. And the Supreme Court of every state in this country says that you have no greater right to custody, unless a court says so, than her father does. He is not a second-class person. And you better think about that. Maternal grandparents don't have a greater right to custody than a child's father. Did you ever go to a hospital when you were a child?
I did.
For what? For what?
I think I put something up my nose.
You put something up your nose. Where were you when you put something up your nose?
I was with my mother.
Your mother. Did they take you away from her and make you a ward of the state?
No.
It was an accident, right?
Yeah, I actually
was she not,
put
just
it
a
up my
second.
nose.
Was she watching you carefully? Was she supervising you? If she wasn't supervising you adequately, Maybe you should have gone to live with somebody else. Maybe your grandparents. It was an accident. Do you understand? Get over it. Case is dismissed.
Alan Calderon says ex-wife Linda Calderon made unauthorized charges on his credit card.
Mr. Calderon, this is your former wife, according to your complaint to your divorce. When all matters of finances had been resolved, your wife used a credit card that was in your name without your authorization. And it was a gas credit card. And according to you, in a very short period of time, a few days, she ran up a bill of well over $500. You want to be compensated for that. Ms. Calderon states in her answer that she believed that you left this card open for her because you were being a nice guy and you knew that she was struggling financially. Of course, you say that when you confronted her with that, her reaction was somewhat different. Can I see a copy of your judgment of divorce, please?
Yes.
You were married for 25 years?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Is that right? And you have kids?
Yes.
How many children?
2.
Grown?
Yes.
It is clear from the judgment of divorce that any and all liabilities incurred after December 14th of 2004 belong to each of you separately. Now, when were these credit card bills made?
October 13th through the 19th.
Of 2005?
Of 2005. I have a
Can I see them, please? How did you become aware of them, sir?
I received a letter of address change, and I knew that I had not changed my address. I didn't even know the credit card existed. And when I called them, they told me that I had requested to change my address, and I thought that there was something wrong with that and asked if there was any charges on the account.
Okay, Ms. Calderon, the ball is in your court. Explain it to me, please.
Basically, the reason that I was in the situation I was in is because I was so heavily in debt and destroyed from what he had done to me from this divorce, because he knew that last year when my daughter graduated high school, my oldest daughter graduated college, and my oldest daughter got married, that I had put a lot of money into that. And
this has nothing to do
well,
with that.
but this is why I was.
Calderon,
this is why.
This has nothing to do with that. This is not.
I would have never used it though.
This is not even a large amount of money. We're talking about a gas credit card where it's clear you allowed someone else to use this gas credit card.
I got gas for my kids. We were all struggling. He destroyed us all.
Just a second. In 4 days, you got gas for your children. You have 2 children and yourself.
Right.
You filled up the cars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know what's $98.20. That's not a car fill up. Or $83.
Or the case of oil.
A case of oil. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 times. Let us assume 3 people's cars, 13 times in a 4-day period. So, Ms. Calderon, don't play with me. This is not because you needed money.
Yes, it was.
When you enter into an agreement, and I assume that this was your agreement, it looks as if it was boilerplate clauses. You agreed that after December of 2004, you would not make any debts for the other party. You chose not to do that.
His friend told my daughter that he left the card open for me to use because he felt sorry for me because he knew how hard of a time I was having.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a different story. Is that person here today?
Yes.
Step up, sir. Tell me your name.
David Dover.
Mr. Dover, did you ever tell Mr. Calderon's daughter that this credit card was left open?
No, ma'am. I never knew the card existed. I never knew anything about it.
Step up. You're the daughter.
Yes.
Your name?
Angela Schubert.
Angela, tell me about this alleged conversation.
We were going to dinner for my birthday. I was sitting in front, and we had just found out I was pregnant that day. It was August 18th. We picked up my dad from work, and we work at, well, it was before we picked him up for work. And we were just talking about the divorce, you know. I was trying to get to know him since, you know, he lives with my dad now. And he just happened to say, well, your dad did leave a gas card open for your mom, because we didn't know, because all the gas cards were closed.
Let me ask you this question. Somebody must have been complaining about money.
No.
So, because the statement that you ascribed to this gentleman well, this is what you said, well, your dad did leave a gas card open for your mom.
We were talking
is
about-
always a response to something said to him.
We were talking about how hard it was for everyone in the divorce,
And
how
how
it happened.
how
We were talking
compassionate
about
he is.
how hard it was. And he said, well, you know, your dad left a gas card open for your mom and, you know, to help her out a little bit.
And you went back and told her, shh.
I
Ms.
didn't tell
Calderon.
her right away.
You didn't tell her right away. When
told
did you
her
tell her?
Maybe a week, week and a half, 2 weeks tops.
Okay, so a week and a half, 2 weeks tops, you tell your mother. And your mother didn't have this credit card.
Yes, I do.
Just a second. You didn't have it. According to you, you found it. Listen to me. You found it. When did you find it?
I wasn't trying to use any of the credit cards.
When did you find it?
When she told me he left it open for me and we were having such a hard time.
Well, did you call him and say...
I can't. We don't communicate.
What do you mean? You don't have the telephone?
He communicates through the kids.
Before I would extend his credit based upon hearsay, I would have picked up a telephone or sent him a note. Is it true that I can use this credit card? I certainly would have at least, if I believed that it was true that he held open this credit card, Miss Calderon, I would have tried it for 1 month. He would have gotten the bill and he would have said, well, I have a $40 bill for gas. I wonder what this is from. But you didn't do that. You charged $500 worth of gas in 4 days. And then, according to your former husband, when he confronted you, because you did call her.
I actually contacted her via email. I don't call her. I had to change my number so many times.
Fine, so you didn't?
But I did contact her.
And what was her response?
She said that go ahead and prosecute her. It would be well worth it for the look on my face.
Can I see it, please?
I was shocked that he wanted to prosecute me.
Well, this email acknowledges, Miss Calderon, that you used this card, but you said, I figured I'd be able to make payments just like you would.
If he had a problem with what I got. But I got things to help us because I knew how he always tries to make himself appear to be generous, but his MO is not generosity. And
Listen
I knew
to me, he doesn't have to be generous with you anymore.
he has never been generous with
Miss
me.
Calderon, then you stayed with somebody for 25 years who wasn't generous. You're divorced now. And what you have to do is you have to put a period and move forward. The economics of divorce is never easy. When you try to run 2 households on the same salaries that you were using to support 1 household, that's never easy for anybody. But what you cannot do is, you cannot say, I have a contract, and I'm not satisfied with the terms of the contract, so I can, because of necessity, because I was married to him for 25 years, because we have children together, they have needs, whatever, I'm going to extend his credit. You can't do that.
I still am in shock that he's done what he's done to us.
Listen to me.
And
You're shocked.
I never thought he was that cold-blooded, and I still can't believe it.
The retaliation was not to use a credit card.
I didn't do it in retaliation.
Well, then you got to pay it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $507. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Al Friedman is suing the current owner of his previous home, Mike Zarba, for the balance of a loan and for disposing of his valuable war memorabilia.
Mr. Friedman, you had a piece of property, a home.
Yes.
And according to your complaint, at first you leased that home to Mr. Zarba. And then there was a discussion about him purchasing the home. He ultimately did purchase the home.
Yes.
He had some trouble with getting an appropriate mortgage because of some credit problems that he may have had. And you loaned him the closing costs, which
Correct.
were $20,000, with a promise that he would repay that money within 90 days.
60 days.
60 days.
Correct.
So first it is your claim that he owes you some of that money, $2,800?
As of, no, it's $1,800
$1,800
left on the loan.
The second part of your lawsuit is that there was an agreement between the two of you that you could keep some property at the house, which you claim Mr. Zarba discarded.
Correct.
Mr. Zarba acknowledges that he discarded the property. He said that he gave you enough time to get it out, and he's not paying you the $1,800 that he acknowledges He owes on the original loan because he was forced to, A, hire a dumpster to get rid of your stuff, and B, he stored it all that time. Is that right, Mr. Zarba?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you first rent this house, Mr. Zarba?
End of July 2004.
And when you rented the house, Mr. Friedman still had some property there in both the shed and in an attic?
Yes.
When did you purchase the house?
April 2005.
And when did Mr. Friedman loan you the $20,000?
The closing, but we had an agreement where I did some work for him, so it wasn't really a loan.
Listen to me. When did he loan you the $20,000, which you acknowledge in your answer?
It would be the beginning of April.
And how long were you supposed to have to repay this loan, Mr. Zarba?
In about 60 days.
Good. When does your receipt indicate that you hired this dumpster to get rid of his property?
August 5th.
When did you tell Mr. Friedman that you weren't going to pay him his $1,800 until he removed his property?
It was the end of July, right?
July what?
July 20th.
And tell me about the conversation that you had with Mr. Friedman.
Well, he showed up unexpected again. He treated me like I was a mini storage.
Listen to me. What conversation did you have with him?
The conversation was, you need to take care of your stuff, get it out, and we'll settle up.
Well, he came to your property
Yes.
looking for money. He didn't come there looking to take his stuff. He came there looking for his $1,800.
Well, it was $2,800 then.
Oh,
I gave him $1,000.
And when you gave him the $1,000, you said, when you get the rest of your stuff out of here, you'll get your other $1,800.
Yes.
Is that what you said to him?
Yes.
And what did he say to you?
He said he was going to get it out. That was the only agreement we had.
And he said he would get it out.
He said he'd get it out.
Now, 2 weeks later, you disposed of his property.
Yes. Gave him till August 1st, in a few days.
Well, so far you didn't give him any time, sir. You didn't say that to me. You said, when you get your stuff out, I'll give you your money. That's what you said
But
to
I've
me.
been
I
asking-
repeat, listen to me.
Okay.
I repeated it twice to you.
Okay.
What troubles me, Mr. Zarba, quite frankly, is your answer. The first line of your answer is the most telling part of your character. You nothing. We were overcharged for the home, considering its condition. And he's lucky we didn't charge him for storing the items. That you wrote. So what you're saying is that after you lived there for a while, and there were lots of things that you had to repair, and the house, you didn't like the condition of the house, you said, I want to renegotiate in my own way the sale price of this house because I overpaid him for the house to begin with. You didn't write there that we had an agreement that we would store the stuff until August 1st. He didn't pick up the stuff August 1st. I hired a dumpster. No. The first thing that you wrote, the most important thing that you wrote was, I didn't like the purchase price, and I'm going to take another $1,800 out of the purchase price because I deserve that. That's not the way life works, Mr. Zarba. Is this your first house?
No, ma'am.
Well, I don't know what you did in your other houses, sir, but that's not the way you close a house. You close a house, you negotiate a price, that's the price. Once you purchase it, you don't say, I think I overpaid for this house. Let me see how I can get the price down a little bit. We understand each other, Mr. Zarba?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Mr. Friedman, I want you to tell me what stuff, and I want you to be very careful because I am an ecumenical abuser. I don't like when somebody tries to put one over late in the game because that's what he did.
Yes.
I don't like when you try to put one over on me.
Yes.
So I want you to tell me what valuable items you left in the house.
And I made a list, and I'll go
You
through
sure
the
you want me
list.
to look at that list?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to take a look at it.
The largest items on that list were two major important pieces to me were I had military boxes marked with military. I had a frame of when I was in Vietnam of a load crew in front of a plane that had my military ribbons on it. I'm a disabled veteran from Vietnam. There's also boxes I had marked with kids items that had finger paintings in it from the time that they were kids and just paraphernalia that they did through the years.
What you're really telling me is that the only thing that were there was your memorabilia. That is valuable because two wooden Santa sleighs handmade, 2 coolers, 2 sets of Malibu yard lights. I don't want to deal with that, sir.
Correct.
I had 10 years of postgraduate work. I don't deal with this. If it was important to you, you should have gotten it out. Now, you just disposed of everything, Mr. Zarba?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, that was the wrong thing to do.
There was nothing in there that looked like it was anything somebody would save.
Listen.
I've got pictures here.
I'm going to take a look at your pictures. Right now. Can I see the pictures, please?
I mean, this is what he left me. It's not pretty.
Well, the shed's not pretty. First of all, get a new camera or take photography lessons. I don't know what this is. Grass. I don't know what this is. I have no idea, sir. This is a whole major blur. Are you doing
I let
this on
him in
purpose?
several times.
Listen to me, sir. Are you doing this on purpose?
No, ma'am.
When you took a picture of the grass, I could see that this is grass.
Yeah.
This looks like a Hungarian goulash, sir.
It was in the attic.
Do you
The lighting
suffer
wasn't very good. I
It has
agree. The
nothing to do
pictures
with
don't look
listen,
great. but
Listen to me, Mr. Zarba. This has nothing to do with lighting.
Okay.
This looks like somebody who's had a bad hangover took these pictures. All right. He had no right to destroy your property, sir. He had no right to take it away. He owes you $1,800 because he's a deadbeat on a loan that he made, and he owes you $1,500 for what he threw out. I'm speaking.
Yes, ma'am.
Suing him for $4,300. I think that's excessive, sir, for the junk that you left there for over a year. But he has to be taught a lesson that he can't dispose of your stuff. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,300. That's it. Goodbye and good luck. Nothing.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
John Sanderlin says ex-girlfriend Christina Taylor owes for the return of child support and attorney fees. John claims Christina lied about the paternity of her child.
Mr. Sanderlin, Miss Taylor has a child. You and Miss Taylor were together for a period of time before the child was born. But it appears now at the time that you met, she was already pregnant by someone else, and the child is not yours. According to you, you didn't know that at the time.
Yes, ma'am.
And when the child was born, you put your name on the child's birth certificate and obligated yourself to take care of the boy or a girl?
Girl.
Girl. Very shortly after the child was born, you and Miss Taylor separated, and she went back to the child's father. I assume this gentleman here. According to you, time passed, and you were hauled into court for child support. You had to hire a lawyer. You were already in arrears. They took money out of your salary. Couldn't get that garnishment lifted without a lawyer. So you want Miss Taylor to pay you back for all of your expenses.
Yes, ma'am.
In addition, even after the order was lifted, 2 additional checks were taken out of your pay. Ms. Taylor received them and cashed them. You want those 2 back. Let's deal with those 2 first. Ms. Taylor, when did you get the last 2 checks?
Beginning of October.
For how much?
$136 apiece.
Why didn't you send them back to Mr. Sanderlin? Is not an answer.
Sorry. I just needed the money, so I cashed it. I felt he signed the birth certificate. You know, it was his obligation, I guess.
Is what you say to me actually the way your mind works?
No.
I just want to know, is what you just said to me the response that you knew he wasn't the father of your child, you knew that there was no order anymore, you knew that you were living with the father of your child, and yet you got 2 checks that you knew were sent to you in error, and you needed the money, so you cashed the checks and spent them. I want to know if that's the way your mind works.
That's how I was thinking.
Then you have enough children.
I know that.
Good. Don't make any more, because God forbid you make more, they'll have your mind. And we have enough people just with you that have your mind. That's dishonest.
It is.
So we're going to take care of this payment right off the bat, Mr. Sanderlin. I'm not finished with you yet because I don't think that you resorted to reasonable self-help. Now, how much money did you pay in total for this child that turned out not to be yours?
I don't have an exact figure.
Well, who's supposed to have a figure? Bird?
No.
Me? You're supposed to have a figure.
I would say anywhere between the lines of $1,000 and $3,000.
Well, that's ridiculous, Mr. Sanderline. That's why you got yourself into all this trouble. Where did you think you were coming today? You're coming to court in order for a court to make a financial award to you to pay you back the money that you've paid for child support. So the least you could do is sit down and figure out how much you paid. Not somewhere between $1,000 and $3,000.
Or whatever it takes to take care of a child from the time of birth up to 3 months.
How many children do you have?
I have none, ma'am.
Sounds perfect to me so far. Money came out of your check. You had a garnishment on your salary. That's what you told me.
$272 between 2 deductions.
Is that the total amount that was taken out of your pay?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, then what are you suing for $3,000 for?
For lawyer fees, it would have took a matter of 2 or 3 days in court to have everything cleared up if she had showed up to court.
Just a second. How much was your lawyer?
The first lawyer cost me, I have paperwork on this. This is the ledger from the lawyer stating everything that I paid. That was the first lawyer.
When was the first time you went into court with the lawyer?
I believe it was in April.
So what was this bill in 2004 for?
The bill in 2004?
Yeah.
I had another lawyer to finish up the case because that lawyer there wanted another $1,000 to go back to court.
Sir, how many times have you been involved in court proceedings, not involving this child?
Maybe once or twice.
I want to see a bill for the lawyer. On this case, Mr. Sanderline. On this case, not your other problems. On this case.
This is it right here.
I don't believe it.
It has right at the top, Sheindlin versus Taylor.
2002.
It goes all the way down to 2004.
2002 is when you said you went to court. Let me see any communication from your lawyer, a letter, with regard to this case.
Your Honor, may I speak?
No. Now, Ms. Taylor, when Mr. Sanderline went into court, allegedly in 2002, did you go into court with him?
Yes, I did.
What did you say to the judge?
I told him that he wasn't the father, and I didn't want child support.
Were you receiving welfare?
No. I don't think at the time.
In the last 4 years, were you receiving welfare?
Yes, I went down and applied for insurance.
Were you receiving welfare?
Yes. Can I say something?
Uh-huh.
When they asked who the father was, they asked household members and who the father was. I never put down John. I always told them it was Daniel, and then I had a paternity test. I showed them the paternity test. I never said that it was John.
You didn't tell him that he was not the father when you met him, right?
Right.
And when he put his name on the birth certificate when the child was born in the hospital, you said, oh, she looks like you, or she looks like me, or she looks like your mother, or she looks like me. You didn't tell him that he wasn't the father, did you?
No.
That was dishonest, because what you say in your answer was very dishonest. You say he should have done the math, right?
Right.
I'm dying to hear what you have to say.
May I approach? Well, first off, me and Christina have been together since 2 months after when this baby was born.
I don't care.
Mr. Sheindlin had nothing to do with her life or whatsoever.
Do you see my mouth moving?
I see her, yes, ma'am.
What do you have to contribute to this case?
The only thing I gotta say is Christina had nothing to do with the court proceedings. She told the judge she got the paternity test stating John Sanderwood was not the father. We proved to the court he wasn't, and that should have been that.
Listen
now,
to
any
me.
attorney's fees that he may have paid...
I'm speaking. Now, listen to me very carefully. Are you married?
No, ma'am.
Your girlfriend was dishonest because when she wasn't with you, she was looking for somebody else to nail for this child. If she wasn't, she would have told him right away that he wasn't the father of this child, and I guarantee you he wouldn't have put his name on the birth certificate. She was looking for somebody to pick up the slack because I don't know where you were, but you weren't together. That's number one. Number two, since you are now together, assume that you don't keep secrets from each other.
No.
That when she received these 2 checks in the amount of $136 that she told you about him?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's the only part I feel
just
like
answer.
we've done wrong.
Just answer.
Yes, ma'am.
And you told her it was wrong.
Yes, ma'am.
And she did it anyway.
Yes, we both did it, not just her alone. We were in hard financial times at the time, and I disagreed at first, but in the end, we both did it together. It wasn't her decision.
I'm glad now I see. Do you have any children other than this one child?
Yes, we have a child, son Zach, yeah. A son as well, yes.
You got enough children, too. Sit down. It all started with a lie, Miss Taylor. Your lie. That's why he had all this trouble. Because if you had told him right from the get-go, listen, I love you, I want to be with you, but this child isn't yours. If you can open your heart up to a child that isn't yours, that's fine. Then he would have had a choice. He would have been able to say, listen, not my child, but I love you. I want to be able to be a family. If I choose to put my name on the birth certificate and accept that responsibility, that's my choice. You lied in 2002. You lied in 2001. You lied in 2005 when you took his check that you shouldn't have. Well, that says a great deal about your character. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused.
Daniel Seabolt says ex-girlfriend Amanda Deaton lied to him, claiming he was the father of her baby. He is suing for unpaid rent and the return of his PlayStation and computer.
Right, Mr. Seabolt, you and the defendant had a relationship, according to what I read in your complaint. The defendant became pregnant. According to you, you leased an apartment in your name.
Your Honor.
You moved in together. She had her baby. You didn't get along.
Correct.
You subsequently ascertained that this baby was not yours. You took a paternity test.
Right, Your Honor.
And you separated.
We actually separated before the paternity test.
So you separated, and then you took the paternity test.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you told her when you moved out that you wanted her to move out too,
Right, Your
because
Honor.
you didn't want to be responsible for the rent anymore. She did not. She stayed in the apartment for several months. Is that right?
Yeah, about 2 months.
You want her to pay that 2 months' rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
And in addition, you claim that you left some property at the house. You want that property.
I would like that back, yes.
Ms. Deeden says she doesn't have your property. You knew that you didn't have to leave the house, that you could have stayed there with your family, that you knew that there was a possibility that this baby wasn't yours all along, so that she didn't fool you. Is that true, by the way?
That is, I knew there was a small chance that the baby was not mine.
How small a chance?
I assume there's a very small chance, but obviously not that small.
Just curious. Why did you assume that there was a chance that the child wasn't yours?
Because I found out that she had cheated on me with one of my best friends. After I found that out, and then we started talking a couple months later, and we tried to patch things back up, and then we found out she was pregnant.
How come you didn't have a paternity test immediately?
I was just trying to forget the incident of the cheating and the separation, trying to work back towards our relationship, and any reminder that was sort of painful for me. I was just trying to get back on with our lives.
How old are you, Mr. Siebold?
I am 22 years old.
How old are you, Miss Deeden?
18.
Shh. Please. How old is your baby?
My daughter is 14 months old.
Does the child's father pay child support?
No, he does not.
Why not?
At the time of conceiving my daughter, I was not dating Daniel. I was in a relationship with the father. Upon becoming pregnant, upon knowing I was pregnant, I should say, because I did not find out right away. I found out after I was 10 weeks along. Daniel and I had started dating at that time when I...
Could you answer my question? I mean, I'm not interested in from the year of the flood. I just want to know how
No, he
come
does
the
not.
father doesn't pay child support for the child.
He signed his rights over to Daniel Siebold.
You mean he terminated his parental rights?
Yes, he did.
With a lawyer?
I don't believe so. It was between him and I and 2 witnesses and then notarized and sitting in his courthouse, so...
It means nothing.
That's good to know. Thank you. I was not of knowledge.
Well, I'm telling you, unless he's been advised of his right to counsel, child has to have an attorney as well before somebody can give up their rights. He's giving up his rights to somebody else who's not the father.
Correct.
Ridiculous. Your child has the right to be supported by 2 parents. And before somebody can give up their parental rights, there are certain rules and regulations that have to be followed. And you can't just wake up one morning, give yourself a good scratch on the rear end and say, I think I'm going to give up my rights and my responsibility as a father. How old is this other character?
22 as well.
Okay. Now, she stayed in the apartment for 2 months after you moved out.
Yes, Your Honor.
Where did you expect her to go?
I assumed she'd either go to her parents' house, where we actually moved from, because they were kind enough to let me stay there when we found out she was pregnant. I told her upon leaving that I wanted to move back into the apartment, so I was asking her to leave, but I didn't want to see our daughter out. I wanted to keep a roof over her head, and I told her she could either stay there and pay rent, or I asked her kindly to move out.
How long was your lease?
The lease was a year lease.
And how many months did you actually live there?
I lived there from July to December, so that's 7 months.
Did you move back into the apartment?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
Well, are they suing you for the entire remainder of the lease?
I'm not quite sure exactly what they're suing me on.
Well, why don't you let me take a look, since I don't think you understand legal documents very well.
I do not have a copy of how much. I spoke with the representative, Stacy, and she told me...
I'm not interested in what Stacy told you, sir. That's hearsay.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Mr. Siebold, you're 22 years old. What do you do for a living, sir?
I work at Walgreens. I'm a photo specialist.
How high of an education did you have?
I graduated high school.
One of the things you have to have when you come to court is evidence.
Right, yeah.
If you're dealing with a managing company, the managing company will tell you and will be more than happy to memorialize in a writing how much money they are claiming you owe them.
Unfortunately, I couldn't get a hold of the person to send me the facts.
So what do you want me to do, Mr. Siebold? What do you want me to do?
I obviously don't expect you to go and do my research for me.
You're absolutely right. I feel sorry for you because they probably will come after you not only for the 2 months that she lived there, but probably for the remainder of the lease if they haven't rented the apartment. You can't come to court and expect me to get your proof for you. You understand?
Yeah, I understand, Your Honor.
Good. What property did you leave there, Mr. Siebold?
I left my laptop computer.
Where is his computer?
That's exactly why I brought my mother. The computer is not in my possession. Upon Daniel leaving, he took just a duffel bag with some clothes. He did come back to the apartment at one time where an altercation occurred between him and I.
About what?
He came to the apartment with his girlfriend.
Oh, that's not... Why did you do that?
She was my ride. I didn't want to go alone.
Nobody else could drive you there except a new girlfriend?
Unfortunately, yes. I had moved...
Tacky. Tacky. Right?
Yeah, not
That's
the
pretty
best choice. I discovered later on, yeah.
Tacky. Okay. Laptop computer, sir. When you leave, it seems to me that's one of the first things you take with you is a laptop computer. Why didn't you take it with you the first time?
I was being a nice guy, and Amanda had asked me to keep it there so she can go online and apply for some jobs.
I have my own laptop computer.
Which doesn't have the capability to go online through a landline. It's only capable of going through DSL, and we did not have that service.
So where's his computer? Don't look down at the floor. Just listen to me. So far, you're not losing, but don't lie.
Oh, I'm not going to lie. My parents are in possession of the PlayStation and the computer.
Oh, fine, so that they can return it to him.
The reason that they have it is there's a large amount of money that Daniel owes my parents.
Just a second. What does Daniel owe your parents money for?
My daughter's christening that he had said he was prepared to pay for the day of the christening. After the guests had left the christening party, my parents had to pay because he was not prepared to.
What else?
My parents paid rent in November, but it was actually December. It was November's rent they paid because we were behind.
What else?
I don't even know, honestly.
Listen to me very carefully. You can stand up next to your daughter. Mr. Seabolt may be a 22-year-old idiot, but I'm not. You expect him to pay for a christening for a child that's not his?
He agreed to pay for the christening.
Look, listen to me. Shh.
He planned...
Listen to me. This is your daughter.
Right.
This is your grandchild.
Oh, yeah.
You pay for the christening.
Sure.
You cannot keep his computer. You cannot keep his PlayStation. You cannot keep any of his property. Do I make myself clear?
Sure.
Good. Your daughter lived in an apartment, and if you helped out with rent for a month, he helped your daughter, right?
Sure.
Perfect. So, PlayStation or computer. What else, Mr. Seabolt?
There was
Don't leave yet. Are you living with your parents, by the way?
No, I am not.
Who are you living with?
My grandmother.
How come?
Due to a situation between my parents and I.
What kind of situation?
There are problems with my teenage brother and myself that I'm old enough to not need to live there, and my brother is a minor, so he needs to stay at his parents. So I have taken my daughter, and I am at my grandmother's.
That computer better be returned to him, as well as the PlayStation, in perfect condition.
They were not in perfect condition when taken.
Exactly the same way as they were when they were taken.
Absolutely.
Don't mess around with me.
No,
You'll be
he can
very
have them all.
unhappy if you mess around with me.
I believe
me.
you.
What else?
There was a RCA 19-inch television set.
Where's the TV?
The TV was taken out of the apartment by Daniel and was taken to wherever he was at that time.
That is true. I was debating on whether or not I should try to put this in the case. I stayed at some friend's house, and when I moved out, there were some skirmishes between us and them, and he told me that he gave it back to Amanda.
You cannot tell me what anybody told you.
I apologize, Your Honor.
You get back your computer and your PlayStation.
Yes, Your Honor.
What's a 22-year-old man need a PlayStation for? What do you do with it?
I use it for entertainment, for relaxation.
He doesn't work. He lived at our house for a year and never paid a penny. He doesn't have a car. He didn't have a job. When he had a job, he took her car.
So?
So we supported him. That's why he had a lot of time to play PlayStation.
How old are you?
40.
How old was he, 20?
Yeah.
He was 20. So he's staying home, sharing a room with your daughter, playing his PlayStation. You're supporting them. Is that right?
Yes.
That doesn't make you too smart.
No, believe me.
But that's what you chose to do.
Right.
He doesn't owe you money for that.
No, he doesn't.
Right.
Gratitude would be nice.
Did you get gratitude from your daughter?
More than him.
Not enough. Right, Miss Deaton?
Oh, not enough. Not right now, no.
Right. I assume so. We won't go there because this is only a half-hour program. Now let's get to your counterclaim. Your counterclaim is for your security deposit back.
Correct.
You used your high school money, $1,000 for security deposit.
Correct.
How long did you live in the apartment?
Till January.
Were you working?
I was working from October to January, yes.
How much were you earning?
Not a lot. I was very part-time.
Okay,
Daniel
you were
was
very
working
part-time.
too.
So who was paying the rent?
Daniel and my parents.
Well, your parents paid 1 month. That's what you told me about 5 minutes ago.
Correct.
The rest of the 5 months, Daniel paid. Right?
Correct. Correct. However, the security deposit paid for July and August. So Daniel paid September, October and $100 of December.
How could, just a second, how could your security deposit pay for the first 2 months?
Because of Daniel's credit, we had to pay a double security deposit.
Fine, and how many months did you live there? 2.
Correct.
Good.
Daniel Seabolt says ex-girlfriend Amanda Deaton lied to him, claiming he was the father of her baby. He is suing for unpaid rent and the return of his PlayStation and computer.
Okay, Miss Deaton, you lived there for a couple of months after he moved out. You had a choice. You could have moved back to your parents. You're a teenager with a baby. You chose to stay there. You ate up your security deposit. You don't get it back. You do get back your PlayStation, your computer. 5 days, 9 a.m. Be there or be square. Thank you.
Bodies are excused. You may step out.
Christy Wise says ex-boyfriend Nick Knox owes for 2 different loans. Nick claims Christy was never his girlfriend.
Miss Wise, you and Mr. Knox dated for a period of time, not very long, 6 months or so?
Yes.
According...
Not true. Never.
I'm not talking to you. And according to your complaint, during that time, you made a series of loans to him for various things. Gambling debt, some DUI fines that he had because he had lost his license. While Mr. Knox acknowledges that you gave him gifts, he says none of them were loans. None of them involved gambling. So, when did the 2 of you start this relationship?
I met him online and on a website called MySpace. My friends told me it was a good place to meet people, so I signed up and I got a message from him. I got the message at the beginning of January.
January of 2005?
Yes.
When did you give him this first chunk of money?
July.
So between January of 2005 and July, there were no loans?
Correct.
Did you see him? Were you dating?
We were not dating at that point. We only dated for like a month.
What month?
Month of June. June to July.
So between January when you met and June, did you communicate on the internet or not at all?
We talked on the phone. I went up and visited him, and we talked online too.
But in June you started dating?
Yes.
And the first money that you gave him was in July?
Correct.
That should have been a clue. What was the money for?
It was for, he went out and gambled when he was out drinking, and he gambled $1,000 and only had $500.
All right.
He called me and he told me about it.
I want you to tell me exactly what he said to you when he called you.
He told me that he had went gambling and he bet $1,000 on a card game, and he only had $500, and the guy was going to come over the next day and physically harm him if he didn't have the money, and he didn't have the money the next day. He called me and told him that the guy had came over and physically harmed him, and then I went up the day after and gave him the $400.
That's a little stilted, what you just said to me. First he called and told you that if you didn't give him the money, he was going to get hurt.
Yes.
You didn't give him the money. Then he called you back and told you that the man came and actually hurt him?
Yes.
How did he hurt him?
He brought a couple of his buddies over and they got in a fight outside his house, I guess. That's what I was informed of.
When you went up there, were there any physical signs of his being assaulted?
Yes, his jaw was bruised.
Was?
Yes.
Black and blue?
Yeah.
And you gave him the $400?
Yes.
What did he say to you?
He said, thank you, I will repay you as soon as I can.
When was the next sum of money that you gave him?
August 15th. It was for his DUI for $250.
Tell me how that came about.
He called me and he informed me that he did not have enough to make his monthly payment for his DUI, and he asked if he could borrow some money. And I said, how much do you need? He said, $250. So I said, okay.
Well, did you know he had had a DUI?
Yes, he informed me.
When?
Back in January.
How did he tell you he had a DUI?
We just were talking, and he just told me the one. We got on the subject of driving, and he's like, well, I got a DUI.
Did he drive?
No.
So you did the driving?
Correct.
When did you lose your license?
November of last year.
How many DUIs have you had?
Just that one.
Must have been a bad one. Were you in an accident?
No. I swerved over. I went left to center, and a police officer drove by me and gave me a DUI. I did the sobriety test and stuff, and then went to court. Well, I tried fighting it, but then we just gave up on it because I admitted to it, so.
Well, what do you mean you tried fighting it?
Well,
take your hands out of your pocket.
Because they wrongfully arrested me, too. They were giving me, I passed all my field sobriety tests, and I blew the legal limit, and then they were shoving me around, pushing me around, slamming me into my car, just saying a bunch of obnoxious things to me, making fun of my name. It's a bunch of stupid stuff. We tried fighting it, and then, because I had another charge.
You tried fighting it because?
I had more than one charge with it. I had the DUI, and I had a concealed weapon, too. It was just a pellet gun under my seat, so they're going to try and charge me with that, so they just dropped that down to nothing, and I just took the DUI.
Is this your first arrest?
Yeah.
Jacked out with the police?
Not really, no. I just...
Where had you been drinking?
I was with my girlfriend at the time then,
Yeah.
and we were at our friend's house having a couple drinks, and then I left and took her home. And then on my way home, I got in trouble.
And what kind of fine did you have to pay?
$1,500.
And how much time did you have to pay it?
2 months. I got sentenced in May of '05. I had 2 months to pay it.
Did you call her and ask her for $250?
No, she gave it to me.
So she gave you the $250?
I told her all about, we were talking on the phone. We never dated, first of all. Second of all, we were talking on the phone. I told her about my situation.
Tell me what you told her about your situation.
I just told her I got a DUI, and she's like, well...
Just a sec, she already knew that. She knew that from January. I'm asking you about the money that you were short.
Oh, I told her because she's like, well, you want to go out? I'm like, well, I have no money. I might have to save up for my fines. I'd save up for my fines and stuff. And then she's like, well, I can help you out. I want to get you back on your feet, you know. So instead of her driving all the time, I'd be able to get my license back and pay my reinstatement fee. So she told me she would help me out. She never told me I had to pay her back. She never said anything about that.
Let's say, Mr. Knox, that she didn't say you had to pay her back. Don't you think you had to pay her back?
I was going to.
Don't you think that's the right thing to do?
I was going to do that. Yes, I was.
Right.
That's what I was going to do.
That's what I like to hear. I don't like to hear bums standing in front of me. I like to hear people who act responsible. Because, quite frankly, Mr. Knox, I could understand it if you said to me, you know, I met Miss Wise and I was involved with her and I cared deeply about her and we were involved in a relationship and I was short a little bit of money and she said, you know, honey, don't stress. I can advance it to you. I don't want you to worry about it. But according to you, you weren't involved with her. You never even dated. Yes, we were. You never even...
We did not date.
You never even dated. You never went out with her. So taking $250 from her, that would make you a bum. Go stand on a corner with a cup. Now I want you to tell me about the $400 for the gambling.
There was no gambling thingy. That is not true. That is just the most untrue thing I've ever heard in my entire life, actually. There was no, I got a gambling debt. I mean, I'm not a small guy. I'm not just going to have some guy come to my own house and beat me up in my own house. That's not true at all. I had no bruises on my face, nothing. I owe nobody money. The money she did give me, that was towards my DUI.
And how much was that?
That was $200. Pretty sure it was $200.
No. We're talking about two different amounts of money.
Oh.
Mr. Knox, we're talking about two different amounts of money. One was $250 for your fines, but you had additional amounts of money that you owed. How much was the second amount of money that you owed?
About $400.
All right. And what did you owe the $400 for?
My reinstatement fee on my license. My fines were already paid off by then.
Just a second. We're going to get there. On your best day, you are not as smart as I am on my worst day. Do you understand that?
That's true.
So while it's very possible that you took the $400 and paid your fines with it that you got from her, right? Maybe the story was, if you don't help me out, I'm going to get hurt. Now, since, Mr. Knox, you say that you were not involved in a relationship with her, and since you chose to take money from her rather than standing on the street corner with a cup, or in the alternative, getting a second job if you needed money.
I didn't...
Now listen to me. If you need extra money, what you do is you work for it. You don't ask other people who may be more smitten with you than you are with them to, when you know you have no feeling for them, just because you're a bum. Now, the only thing I'm doing to him now, it's hurting him a little bit, right?
Right.
Hopefully will make you feel a little bit better. It certainly makes me feel better. Because I don't like people who take advantage of other people. It's not nice. Well, then, if you know it, why don't you pay her back?
I planned on doing that until other things started happening.
Like what?
I had to get my cell phone number changed, my instant message name changed because I work 12-hour shifts at nights. So she would call me every single night, at least a dozen times a night. I have phone bill records to prove it, that she would call me at least a dozen times a night.
What would she say when she called you?
She'd call, I wouldn't answer because I'm at work, so I can't answer my phone. So she'd just keep calling and calling.
Did you ever call her back?
No, because she'd call private numbers.
Well, then let me ask you this question, Mr. Knox.
I couldn't call her back.
Mr. Knox, let me ask you this question, sir. You knew how to communicate with her via the internet. And if what you wanted to do was to sever all ties with her, because according to you, she was becoming obsessive. You didn't know that because you didn't speak to her, so you don't know whether she was calling you 100 times because she said, you know, you owe me money, and if you don't want to have anything to do with me, fine, but at least give me the money you owe me.
Sometimes when she would call, I'd answer my phone. She'd say nothing about money. She'd just be like, oh, hey, what do you want to go out? That's all she'd say.
And what did you say to her?
No, I'm at work.
Fine. Why don't you just say to her, Christy, listen, I'm not interested in you socially. You have a girlfriend, or I'm involved in school and work and whatever. I know I have to give you some money, and I'm going to give it back to you, $100 a week until it's all paid off.
I tried doing that.
When did you try doing that?
I told her that I was going to, I asked her if she could send me in an email or something, her address to her house. I'd send her $100 checks every week in the mail. I told her I'd give her this, like she said she was going on vacation.
Just a second. Did he ever ask you for your address to send you money?
Yes, he did, but I had previously offered him the option to pay me every week, and he denied it.
Just a second. What did he ask you for your address for?
To mail me a check, so I didn't have to see me.
So why didn't you give it to him?
Because I asked him to do it
No,
sooner.
listen to me. So if he said to you, give me your address so I can send you a check, why didn't you give it to him?
Because he didn't want to do it when I wanted to, and I had already filed a claims court when he called me.
It was before. It was before claims
Listen,
court.
Miss Wise, don't throw the baloney at me.
Ma'am, I have a voicemail that he did send me, and it's him acknowledging he owes me money, the full amount.
Does he say what amount?
Yes, he does.
Oh, let me hear it.
The mail from the United Municipal Court saying I owe you $1,086. Why don't we just do this? Every week I'll send you a check in the mail for $200 on the button every single week until it's paid off. I'll call you back later, and that's about it.
You hear $1,086? Good.
That's what he said.
Okay, well, that's an acknowledgement of a debt, Mr. Knox.
I knew I had to pay her back. I know
Well,
that.
then why didn't you say that to me in here and save us all a lot of time and trouble? I got other cases to handle today.
I tried settling it with her. She wouldn't. She wanted to come here.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,086. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Tanya Blishak is suing her former co-worker, Julianne Rouse, for startup money to sell Mary Kay Cosmetics.
Ms. Blishak, according to what I've read in your complaint, you and the defendant worked together in a hair salon period of time, and in addition to your regular work, you were making some money on the side selling Mary Kay Cosmetics. You tried to get Miss Rouse to become a representative for Mary Kay and claimed that you sold her a quantity of product. You put it on your credit card because she asked you to, with the understanding that she would pay the credit card bill. She paid some, but not all, and you want the balance. Ms. Rouse says that you sort of pressured her into becoming a representative. She paid you back a total so far of $1,400 for the product that was purchased, according to her, without her consent. She stopped selling the product. She still has 6 boxes of it at home that you're welcome to have because she says she's paid enough.
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I sold it for about a month.
That's a fib that you just told me, because you told me a moment ago that after a month, so that means that you were at least selling the product for 2 months.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tanya Blishak says former co-worker Julianne Rouse owes for a loan to buy Mary Kay Cosmetics. Julianne says the makeup was forced on her.
When did you start to sell Mary Kay Cosmetics?
September of 2001.
And what percentage do you get of what, for instance, Miss Rouse would purchase from Mary Kay?
At the time, I did get 13% on her order, but I would like to state...
Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I just want to say that I explained to her completely and full detail that she does not have to order any inventory whatsoever. It is for her benefit to have inventory if she wants it, so that she can give it to her customers when they buy it from her. That's completely her option. She doesn't have to do it, and she chose to do one of the big ones.
When did she purchase this product?
In April of '04.
And how much did she purchase?
She purchased a $2,400 order.
Now, tell me under what circumstances you financed her order of $2,400.
It was with my credit card.
Why?
She had been a customer as well before, and I had no problems with her financially. She paid her orders. There was no problems. And she wanted to get started with a business. She said she didn't have a credit card and you can't pay cash. And she wanted to do it, and I told her that I would help her out. She was going to pay me back the next month, and we were going to be done with this.
From where was she supposed to get $2,400?
I don't know.
Who do you live with?
My husband.
Have any children?
Yes.
How many?
1.
How old?
7 months.
And you were working full-time?
No, ma'am.
Part-time?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
I wasn't working for a while. I was going to school, and then I went back to work part-time at the salon. And at that time, my fiance at the time were living with roommates. We didn't have our own place.
So when you purchased this stuff, Miss Rouse, it was your intention to make this a part-time job?
Well, I was working part-time at the salon, and then I left there right about the same time this all happened to work full-time at a travel agency.
So was it your intention to work part-time selling Mary Kay Cosmetics?
At that time, yes.
Who selected the product that was purchased?
Miss Blishek did.
Without your input?
I didn't input. She did it online, and she ordered the things that she thought I needed at the time. And then about 5 weeks later, I needed different products. So I had to place another order on my own to get the products that I needed for my clients.
So you were, in fact, working?
For a little bit, yes.
So why didn't you finish paying her for the product?
And in the beginning, I did not want to sell the Mary Kay. She kept asking me to join. I thought if I joined it, it would be over and done with after the $115. So then after this, I decided that I would try it out.
Well, that's what she's talking about.
And she told me when she did this that I would be able to pay her back in a month because you would make so much money selling these products within the first month, as she did. At the time, I couldn't do that. I was working full-time.
Well, that happened later. Miss Rouse.
Within the same week,
Miss
it happened,
Rouse,
ma'am.
listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
There's something about buyer's remorse, which means that at the time you thought it was a good idea, and all of a sudden it didn't look so good after it was done, as opposed to someone who fraudulently sells you something. I'm not getting the sense that Miss Blishank sold you anything fraudulently, especially since you ordered more product a month later. And you paid her $1,400. She paid you $1,400? When did you stop paying her?
August was the last payment I gave her.
And you were paying her prior to that time because you were selling product?
I sold it for about a month.
Or more? Because that's a fib that you just told me, Miss Rouse. Because you told me a moment ago that after a month you ordered more product to sell to your customer. So that means that you were at least selling the product for 2 months.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Sounds to me, Miss Rouse, as a case of you didn't plan on getting pregnant, you planned on working full-time, you planned on selling this part-time. It all didn't work out because you left a part-time job, went to a full-time job, then you got pregnant, then you stopped working. Are you working now?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You better start selling some Mary Kay Cosmetics because you owe her some money. How much does she owe you with interest on your credit card?
$1848.02.
Can I see that, please? Why does she owe you $1848? What kind of interest they charge you on your credit card?
It was 12.9.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You have 6 boxes of product left?
Yes, ma'am. I have a list of everything I have.
Good. You better start selling it, Miss Rouse. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,848. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused.
प्रोसीड किया जाता है। यहाँ पे नीचे आप ट्रांसक्रिप्शन और कैप्शन वर्क्स की डिटेल्स यहाँ पर आकर देख सकते हैं। ट्रांसक्रिप्शन के वर्क में यहाँ पर आपको दिया गया है कि आपको ऑडियो या फिर वीडियो को जो है सुनना है और जो भी आप सुनते हैं उसको आप जो है टाइप करना है इंग्लिश में। इसके थ्रू क्या है आप पैसे कमा सकते हैं। ये जो है एक ट्रांसक्रिप्शन का वर्क होता है। इसके थ्रू आप 0.30 से लेकर $1.10 तक का अर्न कर सकते हैं। यहाँ पर भी आपको कैप्शनर का काम मिल जाता है। कैप्शनर के काम में आपको जो है इंस्ट्रक्शन दिए गए हैं कि आपको वॉच करना होता है वीडियो को और उसके बाद वीडियो में आपको जो भी दिखाया गया उसको आपको टाइप करना होता है, क्रिएटिवली आपको कन्वे करना होता है। इसके बाद आपको सिंक करना होता है। इस काम में आप 0.54 से लेकर 1.10 तक कमा सकते हैं। यहाँ पर आज का जो जॉब है उसके लिए आपको जाना है नीचे। यहाँ पर आप लोगों की फीडबैक्स को भी देख सकते हैं कि ये काफ़ी सारी वेबसाइट्स पर फीचर हो चुका है। इसके बाद आपको जो जाना होगा, यहाँ पर आपको ऊपर जाना है। यहाँ पर नो अ फॉरेनर लैंग्वेज जैसे टॉपिक्स पर आपको जाना है। इसके साइड में आप देख सकते हैं कि सबटाइटलर्स का काम है। यहाँ पर 1.50 से लेकर 3.00 तक आप डॉलर्स में कमा सकते हैं। इसे अगर हम इंडियन रुपीस में कैलकुलेट करें तो ये होगा, तो इसके हिसाब से इंडियन रुपीस में ये होगा 125.93 में इंडियन रुपीस में ये कन्वर्ट हो जाता है। पर ऑडियो या फिर वीडियो के हिसाब से ये जो है आपका अमाउंट हो जाता है। इसके बाद आपको जाना है लर्न मोड पे। लर्न मोड पे जाने के बाद आपको यहाँ पे पेज दिखाई देता है। यहाँ पर आपको अगर ट्रांसलेट करना है, अगर आपके पास ट्रांसलेट करने का स्किल है, अगर आपको ट्रांसलेट करके इनकम कमानी है तो डेफिनेटली आप यहाँ पे अप्लाई कर सकते हैं। यहाँ पर आपको कुछ दिया गया है कि वर्क व्हेन यू वांट व्हेन एवर यू वांट। इसका मतलब आपको कहीं पर भी ये काम जो है कर सकते हैं और किसी भी वक्त पर कर सकते हैं। यहाँ पर आपको इंस्ट्रक्शन दी गई कि कैट पेमेंट वीकली। इसका मतलब है कि वीकली में आपको जो है यहाँ पे पेड किया जाता है। पेमेंट आपको वीकली में दिया जाता है। एवरेज अर्निंग अमाउंट पर मंथ यहाँ पे दिया गया है $958। इसको आप इंडियन रुपीस में कन्वर्ट कर सकते हैं। इंडियन रुपीज़ में अगर हम इसको देखें तो ये हो जाता है हमारा 80,425 रुपये। 80,000 के हिसाब से आप यहाँ पे इंडियन रुपीज़ में कमा सकते हैं। तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा स्कोप है यहाँ पर जो है आप देख सकते हैं कि यहाँ पर आपको फ्री सॉफ्टवेयर जो है गिव किया जाता है। आपको फ्री सॉफ्टवेयर कंपनी की साइड से आपको दिया जाता है, इसलिए आपको टेंशन लेने की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है। आप इजीली आप यहाँ पे अप्लाई कर सकते हैं। आपको सिंपली यहाँ पे अप्लाई करना है। अप्लाई आपको ऑनलाइन करना है। इसके बाद आपको इंग्लिश राइटिंग का एक सैम्पल देना होगा। इसके बाद आपको सबटाइटलिंग में एक रिज्यूमे देना होगा। इसके बाद आपको अपना वर्क चूज़ करना पड़ेगा। इसका मतलब है कि यहाँ पर कई सारे काम है, जैसे कि कैप्शनर का काम है, ट्रांसक्रिप्शन का काम है और सिंपल राइटिंग का काम है। आपको अपना वर्क चुनना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि आपको वीडियो या फिर ऑडियो में से वो जो भी लैंग्वेज में रहेगी उससे दूसरी लैंग्वेज में आपको जो है कन्वर्ट करना पड़ेगा। इसके बाद आपको पेड किया जाएगा पेपाल के थ्रू। अगर आपका पेपाल पर अकाउंट नहीं है तो जल्द से जल्द अपना अकाउंट बना दीजिए। आपका पेमेंट आपको पेपाल के थ्रू कन्वर्ट किया जाएगा। अगर आपका पेपाल पर अकाउंट नहीं है तो सिंपली आप गूगल पर जाकर पेपाल करके सर्च कर सकते हैं। इस तरह से आप पेपाल के अकाउंट पर जाकर यहाँ पर साइन इन करके अपना अकाउंट क्रिएट कर सकते हैं। इसके बाद जैसे ही आप अपना टास्क कंप्लीट करते हैं, एवरी मंडे आपको अपना पेमेंट थ्रू पेपाल के थ्रू आपको दे दिया जाएगा। पेपाल एक बहुत ही अच्छा वेबसाइट है जिस पर आप इंटरनेशनल पेमेंट के लिए बहुत ही अच्छा प्लेटफॉर्म है। पेपाल पर अगर आपका अकाउंट नहीं है और अगर आप चाहते हैं कि हम इस पर वीडियो बनाएं तो हम जल्द से जल्द ऐसी वीडियो लाएंगे, आप कमेंट कर दीजिएगा। यहाँ पर से आप मिनिमम पे रेट यहाँ पे पर मिनट देख सकते हैं। अगर आप अरेबिक में काम करते हैं तो $2.50 यहाँ पे पर ऑडियो या फिर वीडियो आपको मिलता है। अगर आप हिंदी में काम करते हैं तो 2.20 यहाँ पे डॉलर में आपको पर वीडियो या फिर पर ऑडियो का जो है मिलता है। यहाँ पे जापानीज़ और कोरियन, रशियन ये सब भी लैंग्वेजेस यहाँ पे हैं। अगर आप चाहें तो इन पर भी आप काम कर सकते हैं। जिन लोगों को भी हिंदी आती है, फिर जिन लोगों को भी हिंदी में बहुत ज़्यादा एक्सपर्ट हैं, उन लोगों के लिए बहुत ही अच्छी अपॉर्चुनिटी है, क्योंकि हिंदी में आपको यहाँ पे $2.20 पर जो है वीडियो या फिर ऑडियो मिल रहा है। अगर आप हिंदी बहुत अच्छे से जानते हैं तो यहाँ पे आप बहुत ही ज़्यादा अच्छी अर्निंग कर सकते हैं। 2.20 को अगर हम इंडियन रुपीज़ में कन्वर्ट करें तो ये हमारा हो जाता है 189 पॉइंट समथिंग। तो आप पर ऑडियो या फिर पर वीडियो के इतने जो है अर्निंग कर सकते हैं। यहाँ पर जो है आप बेनिफिट देख सकते हैं इस रैप पर वर्क करने के लिए। यहाँ पर आप अपना काम को चूज़ कर सकते हैं। यहाँ पर आपको बहुत सारे लेक्चर्स, इंटरव्यूज़, पॉडकास्ट दिए जाते हैं, जिनको सुनकर आपको सिंपली टाइप करना होता है जिस भी लैंग्वेज में आप कंफर्टेबल है और जिस भी लैंग्वेज को आप चूज़ करते हो। इस पर आपको वीकली जो है पेमेंट किया जाता है और यहाँ पर आपको अपना करियर जो है चूज़ करने का भी बहुत अच्छा मौका मिलता है। अपनी स्किल्स को दिखाने का, अपनी स्किल्स को जो है तेज़ करने का यहाँ पर आपको मौका मिलता है। यहाँ पर जो है आप लोगों की रेटिंग्स को भी चेक कर सकते हैं और लोगों के थॉट्स जो भी इन वेबसाइट से जुड़े हुए हैं वो भी आप यहाँ से चेकआउट कर सकते हैं। इसके थ्रू भी आप एक आइडिया ले सकते हैं। आपको सिंपली यहाँ पर कुछ नहीं करना है, आपको ऊपर जाना है। यहाँ पर आपको अपना फर्स्ट नेम ऐड करना है, लास्ट नेम ऐड करना है, देन आपको अपना ईमेल एड्रेस डालना है। यहाँ पर आपको अपने कंट्री को स्पेसिफिकली अपनी कंट्री को ऐड करना है, देन आपको नेक्स्ट कर देना है। नेक्स्ट करने के बाद आपको एक न्यू पेज मिलता है। इस पर आपको दिया गया है कि आपको अपना नेटिव लैंग्वेज जो है सर्च करना है। अगर आप हिंदी बोलते हैं तो आप हिंदी जो है चूज़ कर सकते हैं। अगर आपको इंग्लिश आती है तो आप इंग्लिश भी चूज़ कर सकते हैं। उसके बाद यहाँ पे आपको चूज़ करना है नीचे में कि जिस लैंग्वेज में आपको कन्वर्ट करना है। अगर आप हिंदी में कन्वर्ट करना चाहते हैं तो आप हिंदी चूज़ कर सकते हैं। अदरवाइज़ अगर आप किसी दूसरे लैंग्वेज में जो है कन्वर्ट करना चाहते हैं तो आप उस लैंग्वेज को यहाँ पे सर्च कर सकते हैं और उसे चूज़ कर सकते हैं। इसके बाद आपको यहाँ पे 1 से 2 मिनट किसी मूवी के बारे में बताना है जिसको आपने देखा हो। तो उस मूवी के बारे में आपको ये बताना है कि क्या मूवी थी। उस मूवी के बारे में आपको कुछ 2 से 3 मिनट्स आपको बोलनी है वीडियो में, और उस मूवी का एंड कैसे हुआ